and weather station.
9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story: family and friends held a vigil last night for the mother and two kids killed in a West Jordan house fire. Police say they believe the father set the home on fire in what they are calling a murder-suicide. Police also say they responded to a domestic violence call at their home once before. The mother's brother, Julio Matos Gil, through an interpreter, tells KSL TV why she never reported her husband.
She didn't want to be deported. Better future for her kids, for her family, and didn't want to be to a trauma for her kids.
The family is now hoping to return and bury the mother and her kids back home in Venezuela. We're still waiting to learn more about a shooting in Cottonwood Heights. Police say a man is in critical condition after his family member opened fire after a fight. The suspected shooter is in police custody. Our top national story this hour from ABC News: the man convicted of killing 4 University of Idaho students is just minutes away from being formally sentenced. ABC News legal contributor Eric Faddis also says it's unclear whether Bryan Kohberger will use his right to speak before he's sentenced.
He does have the right to allocution. Every criminal defendant has that when they're sentenced, to make a statement on their own behalf. Some of these mass killers, sometimes they do it for the infamy. Sometimes they like the attention. Sometimes they want to have this sort of mass exposure and to be heard.
Kohberger will receive 4 consecutive life sentences from a judge in Boise. The loved ones of the victims will have an opportunity to deliver impact statements before sentencing. Your money at this moment: the Dow is up 200 points. Right now we're at 44,698. Coming up, really, we're going to have a nice day today. Lots of sunshine, and we'll get KSL weather next. KSL News Time, 9:02.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio. Amanda, we love talking about Utah Community Credit Union. And guess what? They just got news that they saved their members over $40 million in 2024 alone.
And UCCU is opening 4 new branches in the Salt Lake Valley, which means 6 total now. They have 21st South, Taylorsville, Sandy, Magna, Harriman, and Draper.
And to celebrate these new branches, UCCU is offering some amazing opportunities. First of all, $150 cash just for setting up direct deposit with your UCCU account.
They'll give you up to $250 cash just for transferring any existing loan from another institution to UCCU.
And here's the big one: giving away 10 amazing prizes, including, get this, a brand new 2025 Jeep Wrangler.
So you heard that right. A brand new Jeep Wrangler could be yours, and no purchase is necessary. You don't even have to be a member.
Anyone can enter. It's easy. All you've got to do is go to uccu.com and sign up. So enter to win today.
UCCU.com. Find out more about Utah Community Credit Union, where you're going to love where you bank.
AARP Utah is excited to share a big win for Utahns on their electric bill. Thanks to the Public Service Commission's decision, instead of the original crippling proposal of a 30% increase, your Rocky Mountain power bill will go up less than 5%. AARP Utah wants to thank over 3,000 of its members who stepped up to help. You used your voice and sent postcards addressing your concerns that were hand-delivered to the Commission. You made a difference. Your voices were heard. And thanks to you and other AARP Utah members, critical electricity for so many will remain on. Buildings will remain safe, cool, and the possible hardship for so many has been averted. AARP Utah also extends thanks to the Commission for protecting access to affordable energy programs critical to so many. To learn more about AARP Utah's work and how you can get involved, visit aarp.org/UT. That's aarp.org/UT.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. And here is Virl Johansson.
We've got a crash on southbound I-15, blocking the right shoulder in North Salt Lake, just ahead of that north interchange with I-215. Those delays started about the 2600 south exit in Woods Cross, go all the way up to that north interchange, and then they start to open back up again. Crews are still working to clean up an earlier crash on northbound I-15 on the off-ramp to 3300 south in South Salt Lake. Those delays stretch all the way back to about 7200 south in the south interchange in Midvale. Power up your space with Campson Electric. Trusted, skilled, and ready for your next project. From lighting to full installs, we've got you covered. Visit CampsonElectric.com and let's get started today. Virl Johansson in the KSL Traffic Center.
Sunny today with highs in the low 90s. Tomorrow, a little bit cloudy, ever so slight of a chance of an isolated shower. But the rest of the weekend should be sunny. Tomorrow's high, by the way, will be 93. Right now it's 79 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Welcome to another edition of Inside Sources. I'm Greg Skordas alongside Holly Richardson, and we are following right now the sentencing of Bryan Kohberger. It's about to start in Idaho. We will give you updates on that as it proceeds. It probably will go about an hour or so. But let's go east to Colorado because, Holly, a really interesting lawsuit was filed yesterday by the Colorado Attorney General against a Colorado police officer. And this is the officer that was involved in the traffic stop and which later became the detention of a University of Utah nursing student, Caroline Goncalves.
Right.
And she was stopped in Colorado. Let me just set the stage for this a little bit. This officer saw her driving in Colorado. She was on I-70. She was apparently following a semi-truck a little bit closer than she should have. So he followed her, pulled her over, and gave her a warning. He didn't issue any sort of citation, but the reason he's in hot water is that he was on this app. He was on this Signal group chat and with some federal immigration agents and shared information with them, which included her driver's license.
Yeah.
They ran the driver's license and determined that she had no criminal history or any problems, but that her visa had recently expired.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, right. Wow is the right word. So this officer who was otherwise involved in a sort of a routine 5-minute traffic stop detained her for 20 minutes waiting for the authorities to arrive, didn't give her anything except just the time of day. And, of course, they came and ultimately hooked her up, and she spent 15 days in a federal penitentiary in Colorado.
It's such a terrible story, actually, because we talked about this before when she was still in custody. And if I remember the story, she went several days without being able to contact people on the outside. After she was released, she said she actually was treated differently when they realized she spoke English. But this story, this Signal group chat, and we've heard about Signal before, was supposed to be just for drug offenses, right? There's supposed to be coordination with the federal officers there. It was not supposed to be used for any kind of immigration, anything. And it sounded at the beginning like it was quote unquote accidental, but I think this lawsuit shows it was very deliberate.
Oh, it was much more than that. And the reason we're talking about it is that Colorado has a law. They have a section of the Colorado Code which absolutely prohibits an officer from sharing certain information with immigration authorities, including a person's driver's license and personal identifying information. So, I mean, we don't have that law in Utah. Colorado does. The reason the lawsuit was filed is that the Attorney General in Colorado is claiming that this particular police officer violated that Colorado statute by providing information. And I'm looking at the law. It includes place of birth, immigration, citizenship status, that type of thing. And it's an interesting law because what it does is this, Holly. It tells law enforcement officers in the state of Colorado to sort of stay in your lane. You're doing public service. You're doing public safety.
Right.
You're protecting the public from criminal activity, and that does not necessarily include sharing information for no other reason than you feel this person may or may not be here under some inappropriate status with immigration officers. I mean, certainly you can if there's something much more serious than that. But this was we call it a hook and release. When you pull somebody over for a traffic citation, you let them go. It's not an arrest under the classic sense of an arrest. But Utah does not have this statute. Like I said, Colorado actually precludes their law enforcement from providing certain information to immigration authorities.
Yeah, my understanding of this, first of all, I thought it was super interesting that the Attorney General would actually file a lawsuit against a sheriff's deputy. One of the things he said at the press conference that they held yesterday is that these actions by the sheriff's deputy were for the sole purpose of immigration enforcement. He assisted federal immigration officers apprehending the driver after the routine traffic stop and where there was no relevant criminal activity. But I have a question for you on this lawsuit. What is the remedy that this Attorney General is seeking?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I looked up the statute. It's not a criminal statute. It's not like a violation of it has
a crime or
some
something.
penalty or something like that. Other than there could be a financial assessment, a fine or something like that. But what they're really seeking is what's called an injunction and an order that this particular officer not do it again. I mean,
Right. We've
there's-
talked about injunctions on this show.
absolutely, a lot. There's not much more you can do. He's on administrative leave right now with his department, this particular officer, but they just want him enjoined and sort of admonished and told not to do it again. And I think that they're sending a message to other Colorado law enforcement officers, don't do that. I mean, that's not what you're there for. And, when you said there was some, question as to whether his stop was for the purpose of involving immigration, I mean, he's texting them. And after they pull her over, after the immigration authorities hook her up, they give him sort of a good guy nod on their group chat. Thanks for your work. 20-minute stop. And it included him actually having her come into his vehicle and sit in the passenger seat, which, again, how many times have you had that happen when you've been stopped for a traffic ticket?
Zero.
Right. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And so that was another piece of evidence that supported the notion that he was stalling, that he was trying to buy
exactly.
some time.
Yeah.
And we see that a lot when you have drug dogs, where police will pull somebody over and the drug dog's 20 miles away. They're like, well, let's chat for a while.
Chat. Yeah.
You can't do that. Traffic stops are limited in America to the purpose of the stop. So the law is quite clear throughout the country that if you have somebody that's pulled over for traffic, I mean, if you smell alcohol in their breath or you see an open can of beer or something in the car, you can make the stop go longer. Right. But otherwise, it's a very limited stop for the purpose of issuing a citation, letting them go.
Yeah.
And that's all you're supposed to do with a traffic stop. If it gets more than that, there has to be a reason for that. And in this case, there was no good reason for it.
Right. I mean, she was following a semi a little too close. Well, I don't even know what that means because I'm sure I've done that in the past as well, right? I didn't know that was a thing you could be pulled over for. But it's interesting because she was terrified. She's 19 years old, right? But some of the body cam footage is like him saying, hey, so you have a little bit of an accent. Yeah. So where are you from? And she says, Utah. And he goes, well, were you born there?
Yeah, right. So she'd apparently been here since age 7, which means to me she probably didn't have too much of an accent.
Right.
And she's a nursing student at the University of Utah.
That's right.
Had a legitimate visa, which unfortunately had expired. But to me, just in the criminal justice system, that's probably no more serious than your license plates have expired or your driver's license.
I have been pulled over for that, by the way.
And they say, hey, get your license plates together, and they let you go. And it wasn't a 20-minute detention where you sat in the police car waiting for other officers to arrive. The lawsuit's been filed. We'll follow that. It was just filed yesterday. There was a press conference held, I think, and some statements given by the Attorney General, who's trying to get this officer's attention here. I am sure they've got his attention now.
Yeah. And you know what? She is still out on bond. So her case is actually still active, if I understand that right.
Yeah. So I can't imagine it's going to go anywhere. The ICE agents aren't going to do anything with her. I mean, I would hope, given everything that's happened here. Yeah, it's Anyway, I applaud the state of Colorado for doing something like that. Utah sort of has that, I know we're running out of time here, informally, where a lot of our law enforcement officers are told that they're not immigration officers, but we don't have that codified
specific law
in Utah
correct.
statute.
Yep, correct.
When we come back after the break, redistricting typically occurs once a decade, usually consistent with a census. But there's a push to redistrict before midterms. What's that all about? We'll talk about that after the break.
Behind the curtain of Utah and Washington politics.
It seems like the federal government is now saying to the states, you have much more control of your destiny.
And expanded inside sources.
And so our legislature is trying to figure out what their boundaries are.
Well, even like FEMA, right?
Yes.
Wildfire disasters.
The all-new Inside Sources.
If we have to pay for it all of ourselves, can we afford that as a state?
Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson, now on 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
You've built the dream, the home, the lifestyle, the legacy. Now it's time your windows and doors reflect that same $1 million standard. Whether you're designing a stunning custom home or upgrading the one you've loved for years, Peach Doors and Windows is here to bring that vision to life with precision, style, and craftsmanship.
The Peach specialty? High-end custom windows and doors that don't just fit your space, they elevate it. From sleek modern lines to timeless elegant finishes, they offer the kinds of craftsmanship that truly complements a $1 million space. And with Peach, the process is easy. No pressure, no gimmicks, just knowledgeable experts helping you find solutions to turn your someday project into right now.
Visit their spacious showroom, get inspired, and create something beautiful together. Peach Doors and Windows for the $1 million home you live in and the $1 million feeling you deserve. Visit peachdoorsandwindows.com or call 801-566-1255 today.
That's Peach Windows and Doors. Give them a call, 801-566-1255.
You worked hard for your 401k, but if you've left your job, your money might be sitting in the wrong hands. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and it's very possible that the 401k that you have had for years has hidden fees and limited investment choices. But if you're no longer with the company, that 401k may be at the mercy of your former employer. All of these things could be costing you thousands. Rolling over your 401k into an IRA can provide better investment options that align with your long-term goals. At Trajan Wealth, we're fiduciary advisors that are held to a higher standard with no hidden agenda and no hidden fees. Don't let your retirement dollars sit in an old plan, and don't roll it over to your new plan without consulting Trajan Wealth first. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Advisory services are offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment.
You probably saved my life. Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight and keep it off.
I mean, I was 30 pounds overweight, and I went in, and the doctor said, you need to change your diet.
Get help and get started with Soda Weight Loss.
Got off my blood pressure medicine and my cholesterol medicine, and that is amazing to me.
I went from a 16, 18 down to a size 4 now. So that is amazing. It makes you feel so good.
Splash into summer savings right now with Soda's lowest prices of the year.
No injections, no pills, no hunger.
I would recommend Soda because it's sustainable. This is lifetime change.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal.
We're the #1 weight loss company in America for client satisfaction and results. And with our incredible summer savings, what are you waiting for?
Get help, get results at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Amanda, we live in an age where digital information is so important, and never more so than when it comes to business.
Right.
Protecting your information, protecting your clients' information, it's so important.
I bet some of our listeners worry about this, but this is why Andy and I want to tell you about Les Olson IT. That name is probably familiar to you if you've lived here at all.
Yeah, they fixed your copiers for years.
Sure, that's where you bought your computers and your printers and all of that, but now they can act as your help desk.
Yeah, so they can give you 24/7 help desk support to fix problems as they happen. But the great thing Les Olson IT can also do is prepare you for the future, because you don't want to get caught. If you do, though, they're ready for you.
They're ready for you, so they'll help you protect you from ransomware and phishing and maintain your servers, your workstations. They'll be there, and they'll be there, from Utah. When you talk to Les Olson IT, you're talking to a tech in Utah.
That means customized IT service agreements for whatever your specific needs are. They've got 9 locations from Logan to Las Vegas and online at lesolson.com.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
The new Inside Sources.
Congressional redistricting is back at the forefront of both parties' agendas as they look ahead to midterm elections in 2026. Every state is required to revise its congressional maps every 10 years after the U.S. Census releases its latest population data. But apparently, Holly, they can also do it at other times that they feel is appropriate. I just assumed that 10-year rule, or whatever,
I thought it was a rule,
that's when you redistrict, is when you get the new census numbers back. But apparently you can do it at other times as well.
It sure looks fishy, I'll just say that. So Cami Mondo, the congressional correspondent for the Deseret News, is joining us again to really help us break this down. Thanks, Cami, for joining us again.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So, look, I've been a lawmaker. I was there during a redistricting session in the Utah legislature, and, it was a hot year talking about all of these different maps. But like Greg just said, I thought it really was a once-a-decade thing. Can you tell us why is Congress looking at, why is Congress and states, why are they looking at redistricting right now?
Right. It's such an interesting dynamic right now because, like you said, it happens every 10 years, and we just went through this process about 3 or 4 years ago. So it's kind of confusing as to why some states are now bringing this up. A lot of states, too, have specific laws that you cannot do it in mid-decade. But, in some states, such as Texas right now, there are ways you can go around it to call in special legislative sessions and kind of work around these loopholes to redraw these districts if needed. And so that's kind of what we're looking at right now, especially as Republicans are trying to hold on to their slim majority in Congress. They really want to keep control of the House next November, which is kind of a toss-up right now because they know if they lose the House, Trump won't be able to go through with his agenda as easily as he is right now.
Yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned that it's kind of on a state-by-state basis, which makes sense. I mean, you wouldn't expect that every state would have to do it. Why Texas? Why would that state be so interesting? Because to me, that's a fairly red state.
Right, and I've talked to a few different strategists as to why Texas might be there. They kind of alluded to the fact that, because Texas is such a red state, if you try to go through with this new mid-decade redistricting, you're not likely to reach as many legal challenges in that way as you would in other states, just because of how their state constitution is kind of marked up. It makes it a little bit easier to avoid those legal challenges. But like you said, it is kind of, they want to try and redraw the maps to kind of make those really strong Republican districts a little bit less safe so that the Democratic districts that they do have, they can try to make those a little bit redder. But, that is a gamble. As we've seen in different states before, we've seen this kind of backfire on Republicans a little bit. But it seems like Donald Trump is really wanting to hone in on that state because it is such a Republican stronghold to see if he could flip some of the Democratic seats that we see there right now.
So one of the things that I read in the article that you wrote for the Deseret News is that he is thinking he could get as many as 4 or 5 additional House seats from Texas, and then that would give him a better cushion for holding the House.
Right, and that honestly seems kind of like a best-case scenario as I talk to different strategists and even some lawmakers who are in Texas. They're a little bit nervous that a lot of these districts are strongly Republican, but if you kind of alter them in different ways, it doesn't make them seem as safe. And, we've seen different situations where, there are Republicans in Texas, but there are a lot of Democrats who are popular. And so if you do alter these lines, Trump seems to think that he can pick up, a good handful, but you actually could lose some of your incumbents who are already up here by doing that.
Is there any talk, Cami, with respect to any blue states? For example, we're hearing that House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries talked about, hey, what about some other states, including California? I think Gavin Newsom has weighed in. Do we know if other states are saying, okay, well, if you're going to do it, we might consider doing it as well?
Right, yeah, so it kind of started off with Gavin Newsom in California, who said, well, two can play at this game, and then Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, kind of mentioned that New York could be on that way too. But in the last few days, Jeffries has mentioned, looking at a few other states, maybe Minnesota, maybe Illinois. It's not entirely set in stone where they could go to look for these, but there are definitely talks from other Democratic lawmakers behind the scenes, kind of thinking, where could we find some new seats? Where could we redraw the maps? And then you kind of get into the logistical challenges of which states can actually redraw the maps, which ones might take a little bit longer. And so it is definitely a conversation happening, but nothing is really set in stone there.
Can you tell me what kind of public backlash they may or may not be anticipating?
Right, and so what was really interesting to me, especially when I started looking into this, is that, the whole topic of redistricting, or even a better term for it, of gerrymandering, has always been a political attack on both sides of the aisle. But Democrats really like to attack Republicans on that issue, saying that they redraw maps to kind of manipulate elections. But now it seems like this is becoming a well-known strategy that they're publicizing on their own. And you could actually see some backlash from voters who, a couple strategists I talked to mentioned that you could have voters who are upset that you're going to be redrawing them into new districts where they don't know the lawmakers who are running. They aren't sure who they are, but they're only going to have, maybe a few weeks to get to know them and have to make a decision. And so depending on which party is pushing for the redrawing in whatever state, you could see backlash on voters toward that party.
We're talking about a potential for some redistricting here, even during a midterm election. And I think it's probably true in most states, maybe all states, that although we're talking about our federal congressional map, they are set largely by the state legislatures in each state, in each state. And I know that's how we do it in Utah. It appears to be what they're looking at in Texas, because they're saying that the Texas state legislature is prepared to meet next week. But that's how it's done. It's done on the local level, but they're setting national maps. Is that how you understand it, Cammie?
Yes, correct. And so it usually is done on a state-by-state basis. Each state probably does it a little bit different. Like you said, Utah, Texas, it is done by state legislators. In California, it is a little bit different. They have it set up through like an independent commission. And so that's something that could get in the way of California trying to redraw their maps. But you are correct that it is done by the states themselves.
So is there... like the time frame, I mean, this is not an easy or quick process. How are people talking about the time process where, like, say if Texas is going to move forward with this, what do you think the process would be time-wise?
Right, and for any state that you go through, whether it's going to be as easy as Texas or maybe as difficult as California, you're going to see this is going to take several months. And so that was something that I was also questioning, because it's not only a lengthy process, it's also a very expensive process to have to pay for all of this and, kind of look at the maps and redraw them. A lot of them could be subject to legal challenges, which would drag it out even further. And, the time frame is not on any party's side. The November elections are next year. And so you have just under a year and a half. And so even if you do get those maps drawn, that's going to make it a little bit more difficult for candidates who are running in those districts. And so it kind of seems like a race against the clock a little bit here, and definitely a risky strategy.
Thanks, Cammie. That was Cammie Mondo, congressional correspondent with the Deseret News. And she makes a lot of interesting points, I guess, that I hadn't thought about, Holly. And that is, midterm elections are still a ways away, but drawing up these maps isn't going to be done over a weekend.
Yeah.
And there could be challenges.
It's not that far away, actually. So, like in Utah, even though the November 2026 election is more than a year away, filing starts in January, right? So just imagine if you have to file for re-election and you don't even know for sure what district you're going to be in.
Yeah, I think a lot of Americans don't like gerrymandering. They don't appreciate the concept. And this almost exacerbates that problem, in that we're looking at redistricting at a time we normally don't. I mean, we're going back. It's like the picking of the Supreme Court justices. I mean, so much of what's happening right now in our country is drawn along party lines that I think the American public's got to be going, what are we doing?
I think Cammie in her article was just really blunt, as she should have been, and said, sometimes these discussions have happened behind closed doors, but right now it's just out in the open. And I think it's clear that people want to redistrict to get an electoral advantage. That's it.
Yeah, and in Utah, there was the redistricting lawsuit. It went up to the Supreme Court. They found that what the legislature had done was wrong, but I don't think that
I think they sent it back to a lower court for additional information.
I don't know that the lower court has weighed in on it yet. So I don't know that this is going to apply to Utah. I don't know that our legislature would redraft the maps, even if they had the opportunity right now.
Well, no, unless I guess they were compelled.
Right. So. Yeah, interesting. Something we don't talk about.
Yeah,
and here we are
haven't
talking
seen
about
it before.
Redistricting in a time when we normally wouldn't. Do you want sugar in your soda instead of corn syrup? I don't know that I want either one.
Yummy.
Your cost could go up because most of the sugar used in the United States, I didn't realize this, is imported, and so it's subject to tariffs. We'll talk about that after we come back.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story, the Colorado Attorney General is suing a local sheriff's deputy, claiming he illegally helped immigration officers find and arrest a University of Utah student.
Where are you from? You got a little bit of an accent.
I'm from Utah.
You're from Utah?
Carolyn Gonsalves was pulled over by a deputy early last month on I-70. The lawsuit claims that deputy illegally shared things like her driver's license, license plate, and location in a private signal chat with immigration officers, minutes before they arrested her and brought her to an ICE detention facility for 15 days. The deputy in question was placed on administrative leave. We talked with KSL legal analyst and host of Inside Sources, Greg Skordas, about what this Colorado law is. Greg says this law basically defines the purpose of Colorado officers.
Colorado law enforcement officers are law enforcement officers. They're not immigration officers. So do what you need to do to follow the law and to enforce the law, but don't go out of your way to support another agency who's doing something completely different.
He says this means they should not and cannot, under state law, provide personal identification to federal immigration authorities. Skordas says he is not sure if the student detained can take any action herself against the officer, but says it's pretty clear state law was broken. Our top national story this hour from ABC News, Uber is rolling out a new feature for riders and drivers that the company says will make their rideshare experience safer.
Women riders can choose to have a female driver. Also, female Uber drivers can set a preference for booking women riders. It'll debut in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Detroit in a few weeks. And if successful, they hope to expand this nationwide.
ABC's Becky Worley reporting. Your money at this moment. Let's see where the Dow is right now. The Dow is up to 47. We're at 44,750. Coming up, we have a mild day in store with highs in the low 90s. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:32. Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Hey, this is Dan, the laptop man from PC Laptops. Let me tell you an amazing story. Last week, a customer came in. They were a creative director for an agency, and they were frustrated that their old, slow computer wasn't processing their files quick enough. He had a big project due and could not afford any delays. Well, we hooked him up with one of our new, powerful 2025 desktops for only $999, and he was able to complete his project with ease. Take one home today. The new 2025 S1 desktop or SM3 laptop for only $999. You heard that right, $999. You get a blazing fast processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and over a terabyte of blazing storage for $999. What else do you get? Lifetime service warranty, and we have 12 months special financing on approved credit. Hurry in right now because supplies are limited, because at PC Laptops, we love you. Just check us out at PCLaptops.com. $999, PCLaptops.com.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
ZipRecruiter is the place. ZipRecruiter is the place for talented teachers, savvy software developers, and master mixologists. ZipRecruiter is the place where you meet all these people and more. That's because ZipRecruiter is the place for job seekers who are looking for new opportunities. In fact, ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day, so you can find the right candidates right away. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Andy, my husband and I had Bedrock Quartz redo 3 bathrooms for us, 2 in the old house and 1 in the new house. And I loved working with them for so many reasons. One of which is that they're like a 4-generation family-owned business here in Utah that has been installing countertops and making beautiful kitchens and bathrooms for years and years.
Well, at my house, I suffer from what's called paralysis of choice. When you've got something as wide-ranging with the different types of counters that they offer with quartz, quartzite, like I didn't even know what the difference between those things are. I'm going to need that kind of help when I go through the process.
Oh, they have wonderful designers. Plus, when you go in their showrooms, it's super easy. At station number 1, you select your color and your material. Then you go to station number 2. And you pick out your backsplash, and then you go to number 3, and you select your faucets. It's so easy to do.
They've got what's called employee pricing for everyone. This is the first time they've ever offered this.
For the month of July through August, everyone gets the friends and family discount.
They've got 9 locations near you from Layton to St. George, including a new one in Salt Lake City. BedrockQuartz.com. That's BedrockQuartz.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. And here's Heather Kelly.
We still have a few brake lights northbound I-15. They're off and on. They start just after you pass the point of the mountain from Utah County and extend into South Salt Lake. But the good news is all of our earlier crashes have cleared. The exit ramp from northbound 15 to 33rd South at South Salt Lake has reopened. If you were southbound I-15 going through North Salt Lake, the crash just before the north interchange has cleared, as well as the one on the transition ramp from eastbound I-80 to go southbound on I-215's West Belt. Is the IRS harassing you, garnishing your wages, or threatening asset seizure? Get immediate relief. Contact Utah Tax Attorney Jordan Wilcox. Visit endtaxworry.com. That's endtaxworry.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Sunny today with the highs in the low 90s. For the holiday tomorrow, we'll have a few clouds, a chance of an isolated shower over the mountaintops. The rest of the weekend will be sunny. Right now it's 81 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Coca-Cola is making the move to cane sugar, and it's going to have a big impact on the U.S. food industry and American farmers. I didn't realize this, but Coke has been using corn syrup for years and years as its sweetener. And, of course, our Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy has said high fructose corn syrup is unhealthy, and we should move toward cane sugar.
Which is also maybe not high on the list of healthy foods.
Right, but what we're always talking about these unintended consequences of some of the things that we're talking about. The one big beautiful bill I think we talked about, well, we didn't realize that it would cut employers' abilities to provide office perks and treats for the
snacks
because you don't get tax write-offs.
Right.
Well, now we're talking about tariffs to countries such as Brazil, which is one of our largest importers of cane sugar. So your sodas that rely on sugar might cost more as a result of tariffs.
Yeah, again, it's interesting because it's not only so you have tariffs. So the United States is the 3rd largest importer of sugar in the world. We actually get it from a variety of countries, but a lot of it does come from Brazil. And right now there's and Mexico actually, and so we know that there's tariffs applied on both of those countries. But the other thing that it does is it's going to hurt U.S. farmers, right? And so you have some farmers up in arms, the corn farmers, of course, who have been producing corn and corn syrup, right, in the United States for a long time. In fact, we're looking at an article from Reuters. It's cheaper to produce than sugar, by the way. If you eliminate corn syrup, it could just in the soda, it could result in a $5.1 billion loss in farm revenue to U.S. farmers, and it actually would increase cost to manufacture because adding corn syrup to the Coca-Cola products actually is a different process than adding sugar, cane sugar. And so actually there has to be retrofitting for the manufacturing plants if they go to cane sugar.
And if you can tell the difference between Coke and Pepsi, you could probably tell the difference between high fructose corn syrup and cane sugar. I mean, I've got to think
People
that
can,
the
yeah.
purists might say it doesn't taste the same.
It's sold in glass bottles in Mexico called Mexican Coke, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Mexican Coca-Cola, let's be clear,
Yeah.
and people like the taste better. I understand because it has the sugar in it. Here's another complicating factor. A lot of people in the United States who are consuming soda now are going to sugar-free versions, which have their own issues,
Right,
but
you
it's
have-
neither one.
You have all kinds of things that purport to be sugar-free. I didn't realize something you said a minute ago, Holly, because I think of, C&H, pure cane sugar.
Right.
And if you're in Hawaii, there are just fields and fields and fields of cane
Sugar
sugar.
cane.
And we used to have Utah and Idaho, you and I, sugar that was from the sugar beets.
That's right.
And if you've ever
Yep.
been in Box Elder County, you know that they have a tremendous amount of
Yeah.
sugar beets. At least they did for a while.
Yeah.
Those industries are apparently not enough to supply the American lust for sugar.
That is correct. Right. It's not enough. Yeah. Sugarcane now in the United States is mostly grown in Florida, Louisiana, and Texas, while sugar beets, California, Colorado, Idaho, and Michigan, but not really in Utah anymore. But it was a huge industry here for a while.
Yeah, I remember up in Tremont, and they used to have wheat and beet days.
Wheat and beet.
Everybody has their thing. Well, sugar beets was a big part
All
of
right.
that. And I toured the sugar beet factory up there. I was in grade school. I remember just how awful it smelled. Right? I mean, the sugar that came out of it was incredible, but it just had an awful.
You know what's interesting? So it's been a few years. I took the Utah State University Extension Service Master Food Preserver course, which is a really fancy way of saying I got additional knowledge on how to can and freeze and dehydrate food. And one of the things that I learned in that course is that there can be a difference when you are doing your jam between pure cane sugar and beet sugar, and that you get more foaming with the beet sugar. And so they recommended that we buy, if it's not labeled on the bag, pure cane sugar, it's probably beet sugar.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's specifically labeled. If it's not labeled, it's not from the cane.
Yeah. So, we're talking about the effect, sort of unintended or maybe some intended effects of tariffs. We're also learning that General Motors' second quarter net income fell 35% despite gain in sales, and
huge.
and 1.1 billion of it was
because of
the
tariffs.
result of tariffs. I
Yeah.
mean, that's 35% net income fell over the second quarter because of tariffs.
Yeah, that's a huge bite out of their bottom line, right? $1.1 billion. So it's one of the, again, right now they're kind of eating it, but it's more and more will be passed on to the consumer. In fact, I just read yesterday that Amazon has raised prices on over 1,000 of their more popular items because of the impact of tariffs, right? So you see it in General Motors, you see it on Amazon when you're ordering online. You may see it in your soda choices, right? So they do have an impact.
Yeah, and I think with respect to the auto industry, a lot of the tariffs, at least some of the tariffs that are affecting the price of cars and car parts and things like that are because of the tariffs that have been imposed on Canada. And I think there are other countries. Well, obviously there are other countries that supply us a lot for our automobiles, but the Canadian tariffs seem to be the one that is affecting the price of automobiles more than others. You don't think, Holly, about, America invented the automobile, with Ford.
I know why are we getting our parts from other places?
Right,
but
right.
Yeah, but that happened. Yeah,
I think that's what part of the tariffs are for. And we don't think about, hey, we don't have enough sugar in America either.
Right.
It's such a global economy.
Yeah.
And are tariffs going to change this? Or is General Motors now going to say, okay, we need to start building more plants here in the United States? Do we need to start building more facilities to build parts here in the United States? I think you'd be reluctant to do that if you're General Motors executives, because 4 years from now, 3.5. But who's counting? We might have a different administration, or we might have, we'll almost certainly have a different president.
Yeah,
and that president may or may not use tariffs the way they have now. So you can invest $1 billion in
right, and it takes time, right, to set up manufacturing plants when you've moved your things overseas. Look, there's another article that relates to this. This one's in the Washington Post, but it just says months of Trump's tariffs are shifting supply chains and diplomatic ties, right? So we know that there was some, scuttlebutt about we're going to make all of these cell phones now. We're going to make them in the United States instead of in China. But guess where they went? India.
Yeah,
they didn't
right.
come to the U.S.,
right?
They went to India. So it's shifting supply chains. I'm not sure that's exactly what was intended, but the tariffs are having an impact. And just recently, like today, a tariff agreement was reached between the United States and Japan, 15%. I think that Japan will pay. Yesterday, the United States reached an agreement with the Philippines. Also, Philippines will pay, U.S. will not pay. But there's a lot more still in the hopper.
Yeah. So, we're talking about General Motors' second quarter income fell 35%, despite sales gains impacted by $1.1 billion in tariffs. Again, interesting. We've talked about tariffs a lot. And when we come back after the break, some sad news. Utah has seen multiple deaths recently from domestic violence, even in just the last week in West Jordan and in Midvale. We talked to a detective about one of those yesterday. We're going to talk more about both of those when we come back.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Are you struggling with pain in your feet, ankles, knees, hips, or lower back? At the Good Feet store, we recommend having high-quality support in all of your shoes. Our personalized arch support system has helped countless people find relief, like Karen. Here is her Good Feet story.
After I decided my pain was too much, and my doctor actually suggested that I do visit the Good Feet store. Pretty amazing when they put the arch supports in your shoe and you walk around and you realize there's not pain and you think, how can this arch support in my shoe make my back pain go away? But it works. And how can it make my knee pain go away? It was incredible.
Come to the Good Feet store today and see what we can do for you. Good Feet arch supports are in stock and available in over 300 different styles and sizes.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Stop in today at the Good Feet store.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. Stroke risk may increase. Eliquis can cause serious and potentially fatal bleeding. Don't take if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or bleed longer. A spinal injection increases blood clot risk, which may cause paralysis. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or bruising, or back pain, tingling, numbness, muscle weakness, or incontinence. Aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and if you have a drain that's clogged or backed up, after you've tried the plungers and products, the next step usually involves some kind of drain snake or cabling equipment. You see, sometimes the blockage is far enough down the line that you need special equipment that most homeowners just don't have. That's where the Drains Department at Any Hour Services can help. A drain snake can clear most blockages and get the water flowing again, and clearing blocked drains is what our Drains Department does day in and day out. So if you're a homeowner with a drain line that's clogged or backed up and you'd like one of our drain technicians to come and snake the line for you, it's only $29. Yep, you heard that right. Any Hour Services will snake any drain line with normal access for only $29. Sinks, showers, tubs, toilets, floor drains, laundry drains, even that sewer main line that connects to the city. We'll snake any line for just $29. For help with your drain issues, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7700. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Hi, I'm Dr. Matthew Wappett, Executive Director of the Institute for Disability Research Policy and Practice, or the IDRPP, at Utah State University. Did you know that 1 in 4 Utahns have a disability? Think about that. Your neighbor, your colleagues, your family. At some point, disability affects everyone. The USU IDRPP is on the front lines, driving change right here in Utah and across the nation for people with disabilities. For over 50 years, IDRPP has been Utah's University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, generating vital research that shapes effective policies and delivers real-world solutions. From groundbreaking research to evidence-based training, the IDRPP empowers individuals with disabilities, their families, and the professionals who support them. We're making our communities more accessible and welcoming for everyone. Find out more at idrpp.usu.edu.
Emergency medical unit, respond to 102 Maple Avenue, possible stroke victim.
When stroke occurs, you have 60 minutes to win or lose the race of your life. There are new treatments, but you must get to a hospital fast. If you suddenly feel weakness on one side, have trouble speaking, walking, or seeing, it could be a stroke. Call 911. Get to a hospital. Because how you spend the next 60 minutes could determine how you spend the rest of your life. Stroke. Know the signs. Act in time. A message from the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke.
Inside Sources.
When we started the show yesterday, we were talking about a tragic fire that had occurred in West Jordan, and we had a West Jordan detective, Alondra Zavala, join us in studio. At the time, West Jordan police hadn't yet released a lot of information about that. There was some hint that it might be a murder-suicide. We know that one young adult and one child were killed in the fire.
In the house.
Yeah, as well as a woman and the who's ultimately the perpetrator is the man, the husband.
Right.
I think that West Jordan police has finally decided this was a murder-suicide, and they treated it as such. As such, there, just from the legal point of view, I know this will sound awful, there's not much to do. I mean, you
Right.
can't charge anybody.
Right.
But it did raise a lot, and we were able to talk about the whole concept of domestic violence and
Right.
what people can do. Because anytime you have a situation like this, Holly, we look backwards. We go, okay, what was happening at that house in the days or weeks that led up to that?
Right.
And what could or should, if anything, people have done? Were there signs? Were there things going on? Was there something that maybe a neighbor should have said, hey, there's something going on here? Because you can't blame victims, but victims in domestic violence cases don't always come forward.
Right. You know, one of the things that we talked about yesterday, so we did a segment with the detective, and I told her that my first inclination when they first said this was arson, that it had to be murder-suicide, which they have determined it was. And unfortunately, the girl who passed away, the minor, she was a teenager, I'm pretty sure, but she survived long enough to talk to police and actually said it was her dad who had set the fire, and then she died in the hospital. But, you know, one of the things that we were able to talk about in the next segment yesterday was how often do these domestic violence cases occur in Utah? And we were able to talk with Kimmy Wolf, who works with the Utah Domestic Violence Coalition, and she had this to say to us.
Many people think that, our rates, whether it not even happens here, can't possibly be as high as the national average. And we are tracking just with the national average. So Utah certainly is not immune from domestic violence. For bystanders to intervene, they have to realize that it possibly could place the victim in greater danger. So being cautious, being circumspect, obviously speaking to the individual alone, but be prepared that the victim may downplay or completely dismiss or even be, possibly angry at the inquiry. But this is all because of their own safety. So while we can educate ourselves as, family and friends, approaching the victim does need to be done with caution.
I think one of the things that they brought out yesterday when the West Jordan Police Department had their press conference, not only did they say we do think it was a murder-suicide, there was gasoline used as an accelerant. in the house. It still smelled really strongly of gasoline when they got in there. But they also said that they had been called to the residence at least one time prior for a domestic violence issue, but the family members close to the mom who perished in the fire said because she was here without documentation, she did not want to report it. She thought it would be more traumatizing to her kids to have her and them deported. They were from Venezuela, and they were fleeing violence there, came here to find a better life, and it ended in their tragic deaths.
Yeah, and that's tragic that in this time that a victim, a woman who's being abused, is afraid to call the police because she's also afraid that she's going to bring attention to herself in as much as she may be here undocumented, and she could, the police come to help you with some domestic violence and they end up hooking you up and deporting you, which, I mean, so imagine her situation. That it's a lose-lose.
Right.
Do I continue to get abused or do I risk being deported?
Right.
And of course, the worst possible thing happened.
Right.
She was murdered.
Yep, that's right. And her kids with her. And it's one of the questions where you start to see these immigration raids. In fact, I saw a headline. I think I included it in my Utah Policy newsletter today. But a toddler is left stranded in the United States, is now in foster care because ICE grabbed this toddler's mom and threw her in detention.
Right. And it was an interesting stat that Kimmy talked about. This was Kimmy Wolf from the Utah Domestic Violence Coalition, when she said people don't think it happens as much in Utah.
As much.
We're just on we're on the national norm for domestic violence, and that surprised me even as a person who is involved in the DV community, and I've actually served with that commission for a while, so I was surprised at that stat. I would have thought Utah was somewhat lower than the national average.
It's not, and it's one of the things that Dr. Susan Madsen from Utah State University and the Women in Leadership Project, some of her research, and she keeps talking about this as well, right? It's 1 in 3 women in Utah, and it's 1 in 7 men. So it's not exclusive to women, right? Although it's more women than men, but 30+% of women in their lifetime will experience domestic abuse.
Yeah, we're talking about now what has been determined to be a murder-suicide in the West Jordan area. It happened on Friday around 10:15 a.m. Emergency crews responded to an address near 82nd South. A man, a woman, and a boy were found dead inside the house. A girl was found outside the residence. She obviously made it outside, and apparently she was burned. I mean, it was awful. Her
really
situation
bad,
was horrible. Taken to a local hospital in critical condition. Later died from her injuries. The police were at the time saying we think this is a murder-suicide. They were reluctant. Even yesterday, when we were doing this very show, they were reluctant to say that, and I can understand that. I mean, I've been on both sides of these situations and these investigations, but I will hand it to the people in West Jordan, law enforcement there. They wrapped it up very quickly. It wasn't one of those.
And look, I want to do a shout out to the community in West Jordan. So there was somebody who passed by and saw the fire. In fact, I've seen a little bit of video from within the car. It was a young man and his girlfriend, and she started videoing. He jumped out when he realized there was somebody at a window, and this ended up being the girl who got out and lived for a little while. He jumped out of his car and he went right over to do what he could to help, and he ended up spending the night in the hospital for some smoke inhalation. Last night they had a great big neighborhood memorial where people came and talked and spoke and remembered them as just really loving and kind, the mom and the kids, and that they'll be missed at school, those types of things. And and then it wasn't the only domestic violence death in the last 5 days.
Yeah, there was another situation that occurred in Midvale that we're learning more and more about. I mean, this is something that I don't know. It's just hard to imagine. But again, it goes back to what we were talking about before, that Utah's not immune and that our numbers are not necessarily down.
Yeah. And, again, remember the lieutenant governor lost her cousin to a domestic violence shooting when her ex approached her at a bus stop and shot her, I think, 5 times early in the morning. Well, in this case, in Midvale, this was Sunday morning, and a witness saw a man punching a woman near Hillcrest High School and called 911, and that woman ended up in the hospital. She was able to identify her attacker, and then she actually collapsed in the hospital and ended up passing away. So we have 4 domestic violence deaths since Friday,
Right.
and then the suicide.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's just tragic. You know, there was some good news. Kimmy Wolf, who did speak with us yesterday, did tell us where people could go to get help.
So if it is an immediate crisis, the person is in fear for their safety, it is a current act of violence, call 911. Absolutely, call 911. Now, if it's something that they just would like information, questions, connections, contact our hotline. It's 1-800-897-LINK, LINK, and our advocates connect people to services throughout Utah. So it does not matter where you are hearing this message from. Reach out, and then we can get you connected with local services.
Great advice. Great advice. We've been following this morning the sentencing of Brian Kohlberger. He is the quadruple homicide defendant, now convicted defendant in Idaho. The sentencing started about an hour ago, and they're letting the judges allowing each of the victims' family members to speak. That should go sometime. We'll probably have a sentence before the show is over, although the sentence is sort of known. We know
Right.
exactly what he's going to get. But we've also, as we followed that case, we've also got a couple of Utah cases, death penalty cases, that we're going to talk about when we come back after this.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story this hour. A suspect has been arrested after homemade tire spikes kept showing up on streets in the southern end of the Salt Lake Valley. The arresting documents say 10 people, including a police officer, had their tires damaged by these spike strips. Tristan Fisher has been identified as the suspect and booked into jail, but jail documents do not give a reason why the suspect wanted to pop people's tires. Our top national story this hour from ABC News, happening right now. Victims' families are speaking in court right now at the sentencing for Brian Kohlberger. He is the man convicted of killing 4 University of Idaho students. Kohlberger took a plea deal that removed the death penalty as a possible sentence. We will break in as soon as the sentence is given. The Bureau of Land Management is getting ready to close a portion of the Bonneville Salt Flats in preparation for Speed Week. BLM outdoor recreation planner Tyler Jute says the forecast is for hot, dry weather.
Heat will, of course, cause a little bit more evaporation of the moisture in the salt, but once the course is groomed, it smooths out the salt crystals, so not a lot of water can evaporate in that week that they're occupying the salt flats.
The BLM will temporarily close the area. The track groomed. Racing events are scheduled to begin August 2nd. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 354 right now, 0.8%. We're at 44,857. Coming up, a beautiful Pioneer Day ahead. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:02. A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
At Trio Senior Living, older adults aren't slowing down. They're just getting started. The Prime Fit Wellness Program expands wellness beyond the gym into every aspect of community life. Whatever your goals, the team at Trio Senior Living has got your back, so you can put your best foot forward. Call 801-475-4004 today to schedule your personal visit.
10 years ago, Les Olson IT set out to do more than fix copiers and printers. We set out to become the IT team Utah businesses count on. Today, we're proud to celebrate a decade as Utah's managed IT service provider, trusted by thousands of local companies for secure, reliable tech support. Thanks for trusting us. Here's to the next 10 years of innovation, protection, and partnership. Visit lesolson.com to learn more.
Les Olson IT.
If you're ready to buy a home or sell a home and you're worried about the current real estate market because of what you've heard from some of your friends or family, well, We're here to tell you that you really shouldn't be worried because now is a great time to buy and sell with our friends at the Stern Team, powered by Almada Real Estate.
And here's why. Buyers have more options due to increased inventory, which gives them the power to negotiate for repairs, interest rate buy-downs, and closing cost assistance. While at the same time, sellers are still getting top dollar for their homes, with home values that are higher today than ever before. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, the current real estate market presents a win-win opportunity for both buyers and sellers.
But you still do want to make sure that you're working with a team of real estate experts you can trust that can get you some great results. And that's our friends at the Stern Team, powered by Almada Real Estate.
They have helped thousands of Salt Lake City homeowners, and they're ready to help you. To get started, just go to thesternteam.com. That's thesternteam.com, or Google The Stern Team.
ZipRecruiter is the place. ZipRecruiter is the place for talented teachers, savvy software developers, and master mixologists. ZipRecruiter is the place where you meet all these people and more. That's because ZipRecruiter is the place for job seekers who are looking for new opportunities. In fact, ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day, so you can find the right candidates right away. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Why'd I go to the doctor? One day at the firehouse, I was so lightheaded I could barely stand. Even my crew noticed. Getting checked out was the right call. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit NoTimeToWait.com, sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. And here is Heather Kelly.
We do have a couple of crashes northbound I-15. One of them is right at the top of the on-ramp from 146 South in Bluffdale. Again, to go northbound I-15, it's on the right shoulder. Then just before you get to 7200 South in Midvale, another crash is on the left shoulder. Neither of those are causing slowdowns. Where you are seeing the brake lights, though, is as you head between 33rd South and the I-80 East turnoff in the South Salt Lake area. But I can't see an accident in that area. Everybody else moving along quite nicely right now across the Wasatch Front. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
We'll have a high today of 92, 93 on Pioneer Day, 95 on Friday. Right now it's 83 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
We're continuing to follow the ongoing sentencing hearing in Boise, Idaho against Brian Kohlberger. He was the University of, I think, Eastern Washington or Washington State University student who killed 4 students in northern Idaho State University. It's been some time. He's been awaiting trial, and he pled guilty as we were getting, we were only 2 or 3 weeks from trial. He pled guilty to 4 murders and 1 count of burglary. So he's facing 4 life sentences plus 10 years.
Which makes me a little bit, it's funny.
Yeah, it's. I think there's no dispute or no question what the judge is going to do. But they have to allow the victims' families to speak, and they're showing pictures of each victim as their parents and siblings and friends are speaking. It's got to be incredibly painful for Kohlberger, as it very well should be, to sit and watch through this and realize what the damage he caused. But closer to home, that is not a death penalty case, and
it was going to be, right?
Which is
yeah.
And in fact, some of the speakers that are talking at the sentencing are saying they're disappointed that it wasn't prosecuted as a death penalty. Yep. I'll give you a couple reasons why death penalty cases are different, and maybe we should rethink the death penalty. And those are both here in Utah. Douglas Carter was convicted in 1985, 40 years ago, of a murder of Eva Olson. We'll talk about his case in a minute, but his case is going back to trial after 40 years. Ralph Menzies is convicted in 1986, another 40-year-old murder of killing Maureen Hunsaker. his mental health has deteriorated to the point where he's claiming, or at least his attorneys are claiming, that he's not even competent to be executed. And in America, a person has to appreciate the consequences of their conduct in order to be punished for it. In other words, if you don't know why you're being executed,
Right.
you can't be executed. So they're saying he doesn't because of his dementia. That issue has been litigated. The judge found that he didn't have sufficient dementia to excuse the death penalty. Now, nobody was asking that he be released from prison like they did in Carter, which we'll talk about in a minute. But on Menzies, they were saying, well, he just shouldn't be a death penalty case. The judge said no. There was another competency petition filed. The judge said no again. Now they've requested what's called a commutation hearing before the Board of Pardons. I think they're going to decide that today, or at least shortly, because the execution, which is a firing squad execution, is still scheduled as of today for September 5th.
Yeah, that's right. So we had talked before, but maybe you can remind our listeners, what is commutation? Like, what are they asking for here?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So in Utah, the Board of Pardons and Parole grants pardons and parole. The governor doesn't. The governor can't pardon a person.
Which is unique, right?
Which is very unique. Yeah, most states you go to the governor and you can ask for mercy. The governor can only forestall it for the next Board of Pardons hearing. But the Board of Pardons can grant what's called a commutation, which is there's been a lot of talk about pardons, what the president will do,
Right.
but they're saying don't do away with the sentence, but make it from a death sentence to a life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Mhm.
So change the sentence.
Mhm.
That's what the latest petition is before the Board of Pardons. They will have that hearing shortly. If you recall, about a year and a half ago, there was a death penalty inmate, Tabarone Honey, who went through a commutation hearing in the weeks leading up to his execution by lethal injection. The Board of Pardons did not commute his sentence. He was executed, and that was the last execution in Utah. Just a fact that I should mention with respect to Menzies, and we've talked about this before, at the time he was convicted in 1986, Utah allowed for two different methods of execution, firing squad and death by lethal injection, and the convicted was allowed to pick of those two. I mean, I can't imagine making that decision.
Right.
Most people didn't say anything. They would just get the lethal injection. But Ralph Menzies chose the firing squad. And even though we haven't had a firing squad here in Utah in a very long time, they've happened. And I think we're one of maybe 2 or 3 states that still have the firing squad. Actually, we don't have it anymore, except if you're grandfathered in, so to speak.
Because it's almost 40 years
right,
now.
Yes,
Yeah.
we don't offer that as a potential anymore.
Yeah.
That's what he chose. So I think they're setting that up down at the prison yard now. I don't know how that's going to occur, but right now it's set for September 5th. So I just wanted to say something because we started this, Holly, when we were talking about Kohberger, and we've shifted to Carter and Menzies. I will talk about Carter in just a second. When a person is convicted of a death penalty case, the appeals never end.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say this to the Kohberger victims' families if I was allowed to speak to them. They won't be dealing with this case 40 years from now.
Right.
They won't be having a commutation hearing
Right.
or a
multiple appeal hearings
or having his conviction set aside for something. It's just not going to happen. He's going to spend the rest of his life in prison, and he will die in prison.
Yeah.
And there's got to be some solace to that. But when a person is convicted of a death penalty case, and I will admit I have worked both sides of death penalty case. I prosecuted
That's
some,
rough.
and I've defended some. The appeals never end. And with respect to Menzies, like you say, there's commutation hearings going on right now, 40 years after the fact. This Carter, Douglas Carter, it's actually a year older case. His case was recently set aside. His conviction, the Utah Supreme Court 40 years later said that was prosecutorial misconduct. They perjured testimony from witnesses. They were actually, I think, paying one of the witnesses to stay in Utah so they wouldn't leave, and go back
could
home.
testify.
And so
Yeah.
they stay and testify. Well, that's not necessarily inappropriate, but if you don't tell the other side you're doing it, it's very inappropriate. And so that appeal, that inquiry, that investigation would never have occurred had Carter gotten life in prison without the possibility.
So it was this ongoing attempt to get an appeal of something. So his case has been thrown out and is going to be retried.
Right.
40 years later, it's got to be hard.
Right, and that's got to be a difficult decision for the Utah County Attorney, who wasn't involved in the case 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And he's got to look at the case now. And by the way, Utah County Attorney is one of the best in the state, but he's not somebody that's anxious to go after a death penalty case, as none of our prosecutors are. But he's got to look at the case and say, A, can I still prosecute this case?
Right.
And B, should I? I mean,
right.
Carter's already done 40 years on a homicide. That's probably about average. I mean, had he just gotten a life in prison, maybe he'd be eligible for parole soon. But they've decided in Utah County that they are going to, and they've announced, I think yesterday, the day before, that they are going to proceed with that case as a death penalty case. So everything starts over. I mean, in fact, he's not even in prison anymore.
I saw that. He moved to jail.
The Utah County Jail, which is where people go while they're awaiting trial.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been in the Utah State Prison for 40 years, probably had it was
Yes.
set up there pretty well. Now he's in the Utah County Jail. And there was a question yesterday, and I don't want to get in the weeds too much, but does he even get a preliminary hearing again? Do we start from scratch? And the prosecutor was saying, well, the Supreme Court didn't flip over the preliminary hearing. They flipped over the trial.
Gosh.
So where does that case start over? But yeah, that case is starting over.
Are they going to have to go back to the original witnesses that already one of them was, at least one was maybe problematic?
They don't have any choice. And they're going to go back to whatever witnesses the county attorney thinks they need to win this case.
Wow.
And I believe that at least a couple of them were in Mexico, so they were looking those over, trying to find those in the last couple of weeks and months to see if they could even prosecute the case. And like I say, should they prosecute the case? I was a little surprised they're prosecuting it as a death penalty case, given everything. But they must have consulted with the victim's family and had some inclination from them that they wanted to go proceed with it that way. We'll continue to follow those three cases. But when we come back, we have some Days of 47 trivia when we come back. And we have some questions. And we want to know if you can answer these questions. So text us at 57500. Even if you have some 47 trivia of your own, text us at 57500, and we'll talk about that after this.
Listen to KSL for the new and traditional content you've always loved. There's the new Inside Sources, expanded from 9 to noon, and new expanded news coverage with Maria Chaleos on midday, noon to 3. And of course, the news and weather from voices you love, mornings and afternoons. Here are new traditions and the familiar ones on KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Hi, I'm Jake Harward. I'm a farmer, and Pioneer Days is going to be one giant week-long celebration, and it starts at Harward Farms green roadside stands for our picked fresh daily non-GMO sweet corn, along with now-in-season watermelon, peaches, raspberries, and more. Plus, don't miss cantaloupes, 2 for $3. Check harwardfarms.com for our locations in the communities we've been a part of for nearly 30 years. Stop on by, and we'll see you when you get here. Fresh from our family's farm to your family's dinner table.
Harward Farms. It's no baloney. Proper window installation makes a huge difference. Hi, this is Jason.
And Kathy of Window World. Hey, anybody can bust out your old windows and slap in the new ones and leave you with a mess.
Our in-house installers are thoroughly trained to expertly install, seal, and trim your new window.
And they clean up afterwards.
Our windows have a transferable lifetime warranty.
And we warranty the installation, too.
Call Window World at 281-8111.
Window World. And as Doug always said,
that's no baloney.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370, 888-999-6370, or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Ooh, ma.
What was that?
That is business phone bliss with the Ooma Cloud Phone System. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs.
You sound very...
Calm? I am. Ooma has everything I need to run my business more efficiently, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Nice. Find your business calm at ooma.com/radio.
What's up? I'm Phil Briggs, here from my friends at Navy Federal Credit Union. Whether you're looking to buy a new or used car, or maybe just want to refinance your current loan, Navy Federal Credit Union has great rates on auto loans. You can apply via their mobile app or online, and in most cases, get a decision in seconds. So get a great car and great rates with Navy Federal Credit Union. Credit and collateral subject to approval, rates subject to change, and are based on credit worthiness. Navy Federal is insured by NCUA, and you can learn more at NavyFederal.org/auto.
An emergency can happen any second. Here's a few seconds to think about where you'd go. When you need medical care fast, the closest emergency room is a smart thing to know. Common Spirit Health ERs are your direct path between feeling scared or uncomfortable and feeling better. Find emergency care in your neighborhood at mountain.commonspirit.org.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. With honest conversations that let them know what we expect. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be shared with friends or family. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Millions plan for retirement online. Estimate your future benefits, apply for retirement, and manage your benefits all from the comfort of your home. And give yourself the freedom to do what you want offline. Social Security's online services help put you in control with secure access to your information anytime, anywhere, allowing you to spend more time with family, friends, or simply just enjoying the day. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
And expanded Inside Sources.
Pioneer children sing as they walked and walked and walked and walked.
Now I'm stuck with that in my head for the rest of the day. Beautiful song that we all sang when we were children here. But tomorrow is the 24th of July. We're celebrating the Days of 47. And you and I are celebrating with our attire today.
That's right.
I've got my Deseret News Marathon shirt on from the year I ran it, which I thought was like 5 years ago. It was in 1992.
It's been a minute.
I was in a little better health then. And you're volunteering at tomorrow's
Yeah. I have a
marathon.
bright green one. What does it say? Deseret News Marathon.
Yeah.
On the back it says crew.
You know, I do these events, and when you run a marathon, you got to keep the T-shirt.
Yeah.
So I've had this T-shirt for 34 years, and I was happy to wear it today. But we do have some trivia for you, and we want you to text us your answers to these questions. We'll kind of come back later, give you some time to do that at 57500, and we'll start at the top here. This one should be easy, but we're not going to give it away. When did the first Mormon pioneers enter the Salt Lake Valley?
And let's do it by number. So that's question number one.
Question number one. Question number two.
What did Brigham Young say upon seeing the Salt Lake Valley?
Now, that one is a little bit of a trick
question.
Number three. When was the first Pioneer Day celebrated?
Number four. When did the Days of 47 parade actually become the official name?
Yeah, these are going to be very hard. And if somebody gets these right, we should give them a prize or something.
Well, we'll cheer. We'll have applause.
We'll find something for you. And before it was called the Days of 47 Parade, what was it called?
Yeah. Here's one that I'm guessing our listeners will know. What technology did William Clayton invent during his 1847 crossing? So we talked about him yesterday, actually.
With the
with Berkeley. Yeah, well, so he was on that first.
Was he the scribe?
He was the scribe who wrote every single day, including the 4,000-word lecture from Brigham Young to the people in the company.
111 days. And
but what did he invented something that was really important.
Interesting. Through which canyon, we have a lot, did the pioneers enter the Salt Lake Valley?
So question number 8, how many pioneers were under the age of 20? And we are looking for a percentage, not an actual number.
But either one's right.
Right.
And this is a true or false question. Babies were more likely to die on the trail to Zion than they were staying put in their place of birth.
True or false?
True or false? I hope
Okay.
that one makes sense.
Yeah. The number 10, how long is the Mormon Trail considered to be if you start in Nauvoo and end in Salt Lake City? How long is that?
Too long. And that's not by automobile, by the way, the Mormon Trail. Number 10, what color, or excuse me, 11.
Yeah.
What color were covered wagons painted?
And then finally, our last one, actually, we could do a bonus one. So number 12, how many pioneers took the trip west between 1847 and 1869? We're looking for big round numbers.
Yeah, you don't have to give us the exact. You say there's a bonus question?
Yeah, my bonus question is this. How many miles on average could a westward wagon train travel every day? How many miles did they go a day?
Yeah. How much wood could a woodchuck chop?
That's right.
Okay, so yeah, and so if you look at how many days it took them and how far it was, there was a
little bit of a hint,
I
right?
did do a little bit of the math yesterday.
Well, I think your math yesterday was different because remember yesterday we talked about the guys' trip. So there was 143 men on that trip, 2 little boys and 3 women, and they went faster than an average wagon train.
Okay, are you ready for the answers?
I don't know.
Let's go through these and let's see if anybody got them right. When did the first Mormon pioneers enter the Salt Lake Valley? Now, this one should be easy.
It should be easy since we have the days of 47 on July 24th. So it was July 24th, 1847.
Okay, that one was too easy. And this one, you tricked me on this one. What did Brigham Young say upon entering the Salt Lake Valley? I always thought it was, "This is the place."
It is not. He actually said, "This is the right place," and then he said, "Drive on."
Drive on, like
go down into the valley.
Okay,
so
drive on, let's get out of here.
He was actually really sick, and he was laying in the bottom of the wagon, and they stopped as they got to the top of the canyon, and he had to lift himself up because he had been ill, and he said, "This is the right place."
So we should have the "This is the right place" monument, but we don't. Okay, when was the first Pioneer Day celebrated? What year?
I actually thought before I knew the answer that it was that first year, but it wasn't. It was 1849, 2 years later. The reason they didn't celebrate it in 1848 had something to do with gulls and crickets, right? It was the year of the cricket infestation and the seagull miracle.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I believe that. Okay, when did the Days of 47 parade name become the official name?
It was almost 100 years later. It was 1943 before the Days of 47 actually became the name of the celebration that people were having.
And what was it called before that?
It was called Covered Wagon Days.
Well, I'm glad they made the change. It got a lot more interesting. We do have some answers. Somebody texted
a while ago.
Yeah. When did they enter the valley? A while ago. Somebody got it wrong. This is the place. Again, our third one, I'm sorry, I should have read these before we read the answers. When did the parade name become official? A month after arriving? Nope. And number 4, we haven't gotten to this one yet. Oh, yeah. What was it called before? The covered...
Gathering party. No, it was Covered Wagon Days, not the gathering party. But we do have texter Eric. He got the next one right. So what technology did William Clayton invent during his 1847 crossing?
I had no idea about this one. The odometer?
Yeah.
Somebody got it right.
For the wagon wheel. Yep.
Yeah.
They were able to track the entire trip. Okay, and then Eric got the next one right as well. Which canyon did the pioneers enter? Through which canyon did the pioneers enter the Salt Lake Valley?
This one should be a giveaway just by the name of
the
canyon.
Immigration Canyon.
Immigration Canyon. Yeah, so he got that one right as well.
Yep.
And that's the canyon that has Hogle Zoo, and this
that's
is the
right.
place monument. So
and that's where the marathon will be tomorrow, and I'll be volunteering at Hogle Zoo as they come down Immigration Canyon.
Right. Yep. I won't this year, but I've done it before.
Yeah.
The next question was, how many pioneers were under the age of 20?
And we don't have an answer for that one yet. But true or false, babies were more likely to die on the trail to Zion than they were staying put. That's actually false. So the trail was not more dangerous for babies than staying in their, whether it was winter quarters or or even further back east.
Okay, and how long is the Mormon Trail considered to be? The answer is 1,300 miles. He wrote 12 miles, but I assume he meant 12.
No, I think he's answering a different question. I think he is answering the how far. That was the bonus question. How many miles did they travel every day?
Oh, I thought maybe he was thinking 12,000. Okay, I gave it away.
1,300. No, it's okay. So, okay. So we have a texter saying, you're wrong. The first pioneers entered the valley on July 22nd. Yeah, there was an advance company that came in before the bulk of the company that Brigham Young was in. That is correct. Okay, so we also had the question, what color were covered wagons painted? And, if you see a covered wagon now, what do you think? What colors would they have been?
Beige.
Yeah, beige, right?
Khaki.
Yeah, they really were not, actually. They painted the running gears orange and red, typically, and then the beds of the wagon were painted like a turquoise or a dark green. They were quite colorful. The tops were typically white. If they had military wagons, those were actually red, white, and blue. So
Seriously.
There you go. Yeah.
One of the texters said blue, so technically pretty close.
That's one of them, yeah.
Or dark green, right?
Yep.
And then how many pioneers took the trip between 1847 and 1869? The answer is 60 to 70,000.
Yep.
That's
a lot.
Had to get easier and easier. Yeah, and so one of our texters said we were wrong. That was actually July 22nd, which
right.
Was,
that's the advance company.
They camped near. This is some interesting trivia. 5th East and 17th South here in Salt Lake City. That's now commemorated by the first encampment park. I've never seen that. There must be a something there, to commemorate that.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of what's 5th East and 17th South. But I think
there's a park.
Yeah, I think there's a park there, ball field or something like
that. Okay, and then the bonus question was how many miles on average? So yesterday, that company with Brigham Young, they traveled, we guesstimated, and they came from far west Nebraska, so not as far as Nauvoo, but they traveled about 15 miles a day or so. But the average company traveled about 9 miles a day, moving about 2 miles an hour. Not that fast, actually.
Yeah, not that fast.
Yeah.
But, if you're hauling those hand carts.
Well, right, and they were slower than the wagons for sure. Yeah.
Okay, good trivia, good answers today. Sorry we don't
Thanks
have
everybody
prizes
for
you. Right.
jumping in.
Do you realize that grizzly bears are on the endangered species list? The U.S. House Natural Resources Committee just voted on a bill that might take them off. We'll talk about that when we come back.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story is breaking news. The Tooele County Sheriff's Office has confirmed the man who went missing in West Wendover and was later found dead was murdered. A suspect is currently in custody. We will continue to provide updates on this investigation. Stay with us here at KSL News Radio. The state of Utah has to give their response today to the request from Ralph Menzies' attorneys that his death sentence be changed to life in prison. The Utah Board of Pardons and Parole will make the decision. Menzies is scheduled to be executed in September. Our top national story this hour from ABC News, Uber is rolling out a new feature for riders and drivers that the company says will make their rideshare experience safer. More from ABC's Becky Worley.
Women riders can choose to have a female driver. Also, female Uber drivers can set a preference for booking women riders. It'll debut in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Detroit in a few weeks. And if successful, they hope to expand this nationwide.
A House committee has advanced a bill to delist grizzly bears from the endangered species list in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. Wyoming Representative Harriet Hageman says the bears were put on the list in 1997 with a goal of getting back to 500 bears. She says the bear population passed those numbers years ago. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 362 points right now. We're at 44,865. Coming up, a nice-looking Pioneer Day forecast. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:32.
You probably saved my life.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight and keep it off.
I mean, I was 30 pounds overweight, and I went in, and the doctor said, you need to change your diet.
Get help and get started with Soda Weight Loss.
Got off my blood pressure medicine and my cholesterol medicine, and that is amazing to me.
I went from a 16, 18 down to a size 4 now. So that is amazing. It makes you feel so good.
Splash into summer savings right now with Soda's lowest prices of the year. beer.
No injections, no pills, no hunger.
I would recommend soda because it's sustainable. This is lifetime change.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal.
We're the #1 weight loss company in America for client satisfaction and results. And with our incredible summer savings, what are you waiting for?
Get help, get results at SodaWeightLoss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
It all started with a commitment to comfort. Gillette Heating and Air is proud to be Utah County's go-to team for expert HVAC and plumbing solutions. Need a repair, upgrade, or seasonal tune-up? Don't let cost hold you back. With 0% financing available, it's easy to get the work done now and pay later. Plus, save $100 on any repair over $500 and keep your system running strong with a professional tune-up before the heat hits. Visit GilletteHVAC.com or call 385-GET-COOL to book today. Homegrown service pros, financing made simple, comfort made easy.
Carrier, turn to the experts. A Carrier factory authorized dealer.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have leaf filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/deal for your free gutter inspection today. See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
This Friday, join KSL News Radio and NPS from 10 to 1 as the movie show stops by. Then, browse and uncover what makes NPS so great. With 4 locations, NPS takes a new inventory every day. Then, they check all competitors' retail pricing before marking items down 20 to 70% off. You're invited to visit the movie show this Friday from 10 to 1. And that's the first step to discovering NPS. Visit NPSstore.com to begin your own NPS adventure. NPSstore.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. And here is Heather Kelly.
We've got great speeds right now all across the Wasatch Front and the Wasatch Back. No delays on I-80 eastbound trying to exit at Highway 40 in Summit County. I-15 is at speed both directions throughout Utah, Salt Lake, Davis, and Weber counties. The only little bit of slowing that we have is coming out of Tooele County. That is where SR 36 meets I-80 eastbound right at Lake Point. But you have the lane restrictions in that area, so you'll always have a bit of slowing. No matter the weather, your feet can feel fantastic. Find the Good Feet location nearest you at goodfeet.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
We have a predicted high today of 92 degrees, which is below average for this time of year. For tomorrow, Pioneer Day, partly cloudy and 93 degrees. Right now, it's 84. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Several years ago, Holly, my daughter and son and I took a mountain biking trip into Canada, and it was a sort of a hut-to-hut trip. You rode your bike from one place to the other about 15, 20 miles a day. And along that route, we encountered a grizzly bear, a beautiful sort of caramel-colored female, just with no pups, at least that I saw. What are they called?
Cubs.
Cubs, yes. Cub Scouts. Yeah, we didn't see any cubs. But anyway, we saw her several times. She would cross the trail in front of us. And first of all, they're huge. And this was a female. The males are much bigger. And they can be violent, but she couldn't have been more passive. Didn't care that we were there, but also didn't want us there.
You're not going to mess with her.
We were kind of in the way. The reason we're talking about that is a bill to delist the grizzly bear from the Endangered Species Act that protects grizzly bears passed through the House's Natural Resources Committee recently. The bear was first listed as threatened in 1975, and they had a recovery goal of just 500 bears, which they reached in 1997. I'm surprised that the goal was such a modest number.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that people who are opposed to this action are saying is there used to be 50,000 over, a huge swath from Mexico to Canada, and I think from California all the way over to like Kansas or Nebraska, something like that. And now we have significantly fewer than that in the West, and they're saying, so, now you're saying delist it, which means in theory, you're going to send it back to the states. The states can decide if they need to control population or whatever. But it's one of the things that's interesting, the delisting process. And one of the things that the Wyoming representative who sponsored this bill said is, look, we have a process in theory that the Endangered Species Act, once it does its job and you have recovered, these animals have recovered to whatever the standard is that they're trying to get to, that they should be taken off the list. That's the delisting, right? But she said there's only 3% that have ever really been delisted. And so she believes that there would be a lot more buy-in from Republicans to the endangered species list if they actually came off when the animals recovered.
Interesting. She said that the grizzly bear was first listed as a threatened species in 1975. Like I indicated a minute ago, recovery goal of 500. And what she said is that we exceeded that in 1997. We have exceeded recovery goals for almost 3 decades. So in her mind, given the goal of the listing in the first place having been met,
right,
there's no reason to keep it on anymore.
Yeah, and this is not the only animal either, right? So the gray wolf, and we've talked about that in Utah for off and on for a number of years. So Colorado Representative Lauren Boebert actually had a bill passed out of the same committee, the House Natural Resources Committee, but her bill passed back in April to delist the gray wolf also. So what has happened on those bills? Nothing. The answer is nothing has happened.
Yeah. So you would expect, Holly, I don't know why this is a story, why she's doing this. I mean, what we're intending to do. I mean, the grizzly bear doesn't seem to be, a species that's getting into our livestock. Maybe it is. I mean, who knows what
I know one of the things that they're saying is they're being killed on roads more and more often, right? So we have some famous Yellowstone bears. There was a mama bear. She had a number. I can't remember what the number was, but she was hit and killed by a car, and she had these cubs that were so cute. But yeah, it's one of the things, especially for legislators in the West. I think it's one of the things that they care about. It's kind of like the Antiquities Act, right? Is you have these different animals who are on this list, and is there a process to get them off the list? One of the things that opponents to these bills are saying is that by doing it this way, you actually prevent the ability for people to have any kind of judicial review, right? It's Congress, not scientists, not people who present the data necessarily. That they just say, look, we're going to vote whether we have enough recovery or not.
Yeah, and so we're just talking about America, I assume.
Oh, sure.
They wouldn't have any authority to do anything in Canada. I
Correct.
assume there are a lot more grizzlies in Canada than in America, but we're also probably taking into account Alaska. I don't know whether the grizzly population goes up that far north. It probably does, but they used to roam from Canada to Mexico,
right,
and they had a huge habitat. But by 1973, there were only just a few hundred left in the 48 states. So they'd killed something like 98% of the population by 1903. So that's a slow recovery process because it's a big animal. I mean, I'm sure that it's hard to track them, and it's hard to get them into pools where they can mate and try to increase their population. But that's just it's hard to imagine what's happened with that particular animal. We see more of the smaller bears around. I think there's even been one or two cited in Utah, but grizzly bears, I don't think we've had a grizzly bear in Utah, at least in my lifetime. I don't remember the last time we did.
Yeah, I don't remember hearing about grizzlies here.
Besides
Yellowstone, right?
Zoo or something. Yeah,
that's what I think of as Yellowstone when we head up there.
I'm sure they used to roam here.
So this bill on the grizzlies, it passed barely out of the House committee by one vote. It was 2019. It was party lines, but I don't know how that's going to play out when you get to the full House, right? I also don't know how high on the priority list it is. So one of the things you see a lot in Congress, when you talk about gridlock in Congress, a lot of representatives and senators will put forward bill proposals. It's actual legislation they have drafted sometimes they make it out of committee, but they never even hit the House floor, right? Sometimes they can even pass one body, but they don't ever get heard on the other side. So there's a lot of legislation that's proposed that doesn't pass. This may be one of those, but at this point, it's out of the House committee, and technically the next step is to go to the House floor.
And I'm sure a lot of listeners are wondering what delisting means, and we've talked about it a little bit, but I think there's going to be some fear that does delisting mean that now states can open hunt to a grizzly bear, and can they raise money to buy a grizzly permit or something like that? A tag, yeah, exactly. I suppose that's a possibility, but given a population of 500, you would hope there wouldn't be too much of that.
Yeah, and it's actually more than that. So it hit the 500 limit, and now they're saying that they think there's a couple thousand of them around. But this is from Lauren Boebert, who wants to delist the gray wolf, right? She said if you delist it, then states can implement flexible, localized management to balance wolf populations with the needs of our rural communities, which we've had that conversation, right? Wolves versus farmers and ranchers, especially like sheep herders. You've got wolves who come in and then they decimate the local population for the ranchers, right? So that's the kind of the conversation. And do states actually do that? That's one of the other questions as well.
Yeah, I hope we don't do too much with that. We've also seen a little bit of an increase, I think, in the west of the mountain lion. That we hadn't had before. We see them a little bit up in the northern Utah hills. So
I saw one in my neighborhood once, coming home late from delivering a baby, and there was a mountain lion right there. It's
they get in there, yeah. And coyotes are kind of all over the place. When we come back, we've been talking a lot on this show over the last several weeks about the high housing prices. Did you know that some Utah builders are saying that regulations are adding more than $100,000 to the cost of a new home? We'll talk about that. Talk about how that could occur when we come back.
Your electric bill is going to be higher for summer, but not if you get new windows from Advanced Window Products. State-of-the-art double-pane windows and insulated frames, any style, any color, from a company that's been building them right here in Salt Lake City for 39 years. Not only are you buying local, but you're cutting out the middleman because they're the factory. You save 30, even 40% on your new windows, and you get a lifetime guarantee from a trusted local company. If there's a problem 5 years from now, they come right over and get things straight. And right now, you can save even more. If you call Advanced Windows for a quote, they'll give you an extra $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. Advanced Windows offers buy now, pay later. They have 60-month 0% financing. They always work out affordable payments, plus $2,500 off. So get your new windows for summer. Make the call now, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or you can go to advancedwindows.com.
If you're ready to buy a home or sell a home and you're worried about the current real estate market because of what you've heard from some of your friends or family, well, we're here to tell you that you really shouldn't be worried, because now is a great time to buy and sell with our friends at the Stern Team, powered by Almada Real Estate.
And here's why. Buyers have more options due to increased inventory, which gives them the power to negotiate for repairs, interest rate buy-downs, and closing cost assistance. While at the same time, sellers are still getting top dollar for their homes, with home values that are higher today than ever before. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, the current real estate market presents a win-win opportunity for both buyers and sellers.
But you still do want to make sure that you're working with a team of real estate experts you can trust that can get you some great results. And that's our friends at the Stern Team, powered by Almada Real Estate.
They have helped thousands of Salt Lake City homeowners, and they're ready to help you. To get started, just go to thesternteam.com. That's thesternteam.com, or Google The Stern Team.
It's going to be a hot one before you know it. And that means now is the time to get your lawn ready with an application of Revive Organic Soil Treatment. Revive takes every drop of water deep down to the roots, where your grass can use it. Use Revive in early summer. It's the protection your lawn needs to stay lush and green during the hot temperatures coming. With Revive, watering twice a week is like watering 4 times a week. You'll save water, you'll save money. Spread it, spray it. Use Revive now. It works.
At Intermountain Health, we believe life is a circle. May yours surround you with insight, a healthy perspective, trust, and reassurance. The belief that our differences aren't that different, and compassion just when you need it most. Life is a circle. May yours help you live the healthiest life possible. Intermountain Health.
Why'd I go to the doctor? One day at the firehouse, I was so lightheaded I could barely stand. Even my crew noticed. Getting checked out was the right call. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit NoTimeToWait.com, sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime. We're not here to be the biggest. We're here to bring you something we believe is better. Our plans start at just $20. You'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section, when Dad injured his back, when your basketball star tore his ACL. Opioids helped with the pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Opioids are powerful pain-reducing prescription medicines, but most people who are prescribed opioids don't finish their prescriptions. So millions of unused opioids are sitting in homes across the country. And tragically, more than 100 Americans die every day from overdoses involving opioids. What can you do to protect your family? Remove the risk of unused opioids from your home. Pills, patches, or syrups in drawers, purses, and cabinets, anywhere they might be hiding. To find out how to dispose of them properly, visit www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
My name is Tom.
My name is Cindy.
We give to and volunteer with United Way at our community free health clinic.
We know our time and money are going to the right places.
We don't just wear the shirt.
We live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
We're continuing to follow the sentencing of the Brian Kohlberger case in Boise, Idaho, the quadruple homicide case. And it seems, Holly, that what the judge is doing, and it makes a lot of sense, is allowing representatives from each of the victims to speak. And they're sort of going in one at a time. So they're on, looks like Xana Kernodle's family is speaking now, or Kernodle, I should say, family speaking now. And the judge is allowing that to occur. Now, I'll say this, having seen sentencings like this before from both sides, the judge has probably already read all of their statements that they are currently reading. But there's got to be something to benefit the victims and their families when they can confront the killer themselves and speak. And some of them are saying you're a monster, or you're a predator, you're whatever. So there's probably some benefit to having that occur rather than just read something which a judge has already read. And by the way, we know what the sentence is going to be. Right. There's no dispute about that.
We're a couple hours in right now.
But we started about 9 o'clock today, so it's been going for quite a while. But we've talked a lot on this show about housing and housing prices, and Utah's up there.
We're way up there.
We're way up there. We're in the top 10 in terms of house costs, especially as it relates to our personal income. Yeah. In fact, I think we're near the top. Almost 15% of we're going to talk about pending home sales falling apart. But before we get there, there's some concern by some builders that say that inspections and approvals can add $120,000 in fees to the cost of a new house. Inspections and approvals. Now, you would think in this day and age, especially with the new administration, we're cutting back on a lot of that stuff.
Right.
But there's still things you can't walk away from.
Yeah.
And safety is one of them.
That's right. And I think when I'm looking at this article, this is from KUTV, but they talked to the person who is the executive vice president for the Utah Home Builders Association. He's very clear that he does not mean get rid of all regulation, but he said there's stuff that's duplicative. He said that there's things that really, like there's regulations they're supposed to meet that don't have anything to do with safety at all. Some of them are just cosmetic. But But one city that is trying to do a bunch of different things is Spanish Fork. And so the Spanish Fork mayor, Mike Mendenhall, he said, look, we have all kinds of housing down here. We've got multifamily, we have townhomes, we have condominiums, we have apartment complexes, single family homes, of course. And that they're trying to have this city where workers who work in the city can afford to live in the city. And we know Ogden is doing the same thing with that as well. But one of the things that we've talked about multiple times is the price of housing and the availability of housing is complex because you have the state government and you've got regulations, right? And you have city government and you've got zoning and you've got builders, and then you have neighbors who are saying, well, maybe not in my backyard, right? So it's complex, but one of the things that they're suggesting is maybe there's a way to streamline some of these inspections.
Yeah, and I know up in the part of the state where I live in northern Utah that it's so expensive to build a new home that it's almost cost prohibitive. So the better way to buy a home is to buy an existing home.
Right, exactly.
Because of all the regulations.
Yeah.
And I can understand them. They make sense. Cutting back on some of those would be a good idea as well. What the mayor talked about was let's speed up the process and have what he called next day inspections. In other words, when you're ready to move on from one part of the house to a next and you need an inspection done, instead of waiting, which is going to cost you a boatload.
Right.
If you're paying for certain things and you're waiting for things and the house can't move forward, let's move that process along. That would certainly save money.
Right.
Not that inspections shouldn't occur.
Right.
No one's suggesting that.
Yeah.
But let's get them up there quicker so that the builders aren't losing money by having equipment and things on site that they can't use.
And who pays the prices that the builders are, that are absorbing? It's of course the homeowner
eventually does.
Yeah, and there's maybe uses for AI, right, where you can streamline some of these processes of being able to do that for a lot lower cost. Like if I were looking at building a house and knowing it would cost me an extra $100,000, that really would make me pause.
Right.
Yeah.
What can AI do?
It can streamline technology.
Put you on the spot there, but
no, it's one of the things where they can do like a virtual walkthrough, for example. So you've got like the 3D modeling. So before, one of the things that can be expensive, and this isn't necessarily regulation, but when homeowners say, I want to build a house, and then they say, okay, well, I want you to change this, and I want you to change that after you have the blueprint. So if you're doing a 3D walkthrough ahead of time, you can decide all of those types of things ahead of it, right? You can talk about what kind of things you want to have in your kitchen and instead of the changing. So you can streamline manufacturing with AI as well. And you can reduce build time. In fact, one article I'm seeing says, according to an AI company called Twixify, AI can help reduce build times by as much as 30%. So that's a lot.
Yeah, I want to pivot just a little bit because we're looking at another study that shows that almost 15% of pending home sales nationwide were canceled in June. That equates to more than $57,000 home sale agreements that fell through. That's the highest percentage. Well, the highest percentage was in California, but it's also taken a toll here in Utah. And it was a record number for the month of June, according to Redfin.
Yeah, for this time of year. So this is peak. Typically, this is peak home sale time, right? People buy and move in the summertime a lot of times. And Redfin, which if you know Redfin, it's a company that does real estate analysis, right? How much is your home worth? How much, can you look at another home in your area or a different area? But the Redfin analysis said people are backing out because sometimes a better home will come along, but some just get nervous about making a major purchase. They feel like times are uncertain. They would rather back out of this purchase than go ahead when they feel like they may not be able to make the payments down the road.
Yeah, so what that tells me is that that people's confidence in the economy is changing over time,
Yes.
even over a period of a month or two. Because at one point you're on board, you're making an offer to buy a house, then something happens, whether it's tariffs or the inflation, which we saw jump a little bit, or whatever else, and you're suddenly going, hey, wait a minute, maybe I don't want to do this. And I think a lot of Americans had been hoping, because inflation was continuing to go down, that interest rates would follow. And so people thinking, okay, I don't want to finance at 6.5%. I'm going to wait. I'll get on board, but by the time I close on this house, they'll be down to 4.5 or 5, and I can afford it. And it's just not happening.
Yeah,
and that doesn't seem to be happening anytime in the near future. Especially when May's numbers for inflation were actually a little bit worse than we'd expected.
Yeah,
it actually bumped up.
Yeah, that's right. So one of the things that's interesting, right? For me I haven't bought a home in more than 20 years, but once you're far enough in the process that you're canceling, I think you're probably losing earnest money at that point, right? But people are making that decision. And there are some places where, like in Florida, more than 20%, more than 1 in 5 home sales fell through. Like they just backed out for one reason or another.
Yeah. We were interested in purchasing a home just a couple months ago. One came for sale in our neighborhood, and before we made an offer, of course, we thought we should sell ours,
right?
Which, I mean, was just a mess. I mean, it was it was so upsetting. And we had the Stern people in one day talking about staging your house for sale. It was just awful. I mean, we backed out of selling our house. We're like,
right.
no, life's
too
too short.
work.
I don't have, we've lived there long enough, and my wife wanted the house down the street. We didn't end up getting it, but that wasn't a purchase that fell through. That was a
sell.
A sell that
yeah.
we thought, no, we're not going to do it.
Yeah, and one of the news stories that is referenced in this Deseret News article is really that homes are sitting on the market longer. It is definitely a buyer's market right now, and sellers are having a harder time selling, but we also know, and this is local polling, Deseret News Hinckley Institute of Politics poll showed that the uncertain economy and the changing tariff policies, almost half of Utahns are really hesitating about buying big-ticket items, including a house.
What we're talking about is more than 57,000 home sale agreements nationwide fell through in June of this year. 14.9% of the properties that went under contract that month. That represents quite a boatload.
Yeah.
That's an increase of 1 percentage point over the same month last year, and the highest share of failed sales since they started tracking numbers in 2017. That shows a lot of consumer lack of
uncertainty.
confidence, with what's happening in the economy. I still think it's a good time to buy a house, and interest rates will go down, and maybe people should. And I'm not giving advice by any means, but people should consider that maybe you can refinance. What was it? Marry the house, but date the rate. Date the rate, and maybe
marry the house,
maybe
date the rate.
You can change it down the road. We're going to talk about another subject that unfortunately we have to talk about every once in a while, and that is scammers. They're really busy right now. They're threatening their victims with arrest, using intimidation tactics to get people to give them money. We'll talk about some of those tactics that are making the news right now when we come back after this.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story: family and friends held a vigil last night for the mother and 2 kids killed in a West Jordan house fire. Police say they believe the father set the home on fire in what they are calling a murder-suicide. Police also say they responded to a domestic violence call at their home once before. The mother's brother, Julio Matas Gil, through an interpreter, tells KSL TV why she never reported her husband.
She didn't want to be deported. Better future for her kids, for her family, and didn't want to be to a trauma for her kids.
The family is now hoping to return and bury the mother and her children back home in Venezuela. Our top national story this hour from ABC News: the sentencing is taking place in Boise, Idaho right now for the man convicted of killing 4 University of Idaho students. Bryan Kohberger is sitting in the courtroom listening to victim statements from family members and friends of the victims. Kohberger took a plea deal to avoid the death penalty. It's expected he'll get sentenced to life without the chance of parole. We will break in once the sentence is handed down. We're still waiting to learn more about a shooting in Cottonwood Heights. Police say a man is in critical condition after his family member opened fire after a fight. The suspected shooter is in police custody. Your money at this moment: the Dow is up 372 at this hour. We're at 44,874. Coming up, we have a really nice looking forecast for the holiday. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:02. Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Whether you're building your $1 million dream home, giving your current home a facelift, or just trying to get it out of the minor leagues, Peach Windows and Doors brings the big league look.
Modern style, energy efficiency, clean lines, tough builds, and curb appeal that hits like a home run.
Not sure what you need? No sweat. Peach has the coaching staff to get your home in the game. No pressure, no gimmicks, just solid game plans and pro-level results to help you knock it out of the park.
Come see for yourself big, beautiful windows that bring the outside in. Visit Peach Windows and Doors showroom, big enough to spark ideas, small enough to feel right at home. It's time to step up your game and make your house the MVP of the neighborhood. Why live in the minor leagues when you can swing like $1 million? Peach Windows and Doors, because real homes play like champions. Visit peachdoorsandwindows.com or call 801-566-1255 for your free consultation.
That's Peach Windows and Doors. Give them a call, 801-566-1255.
Do you know how to tell if a clogged drain is something to worry about or not? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I understand it's annoying and inconvenient, but sometimes a clogged drain can be a sign there's a more serious issue with your sewer main line. If the drains in the lowest level of your home aren't draining, or you flush a toilet and it comes up somewhere else like a shower or a floor drain, I'm urging you to look at this as more than just an annoyance. The last thing I want you to experience is a sewer backup. If you're a homeowner experiencing any of these issues, the first step would be to snake the line to see if it's just a blockage, which one of our drain techs can do for only $29. Yep, you heard that right. Any Hour Services will snake any drain line with normal access for only $29. Sinks, showers, tubs, toilets, floor drains, laundry drains, even that sewer main line that connects to the city. We'll snake any line for just $29. For help with your drain issues, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7700. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Does your job require you to be on your feet all day? Teachers, postal carriers, salespeople, and restaurant staff, many of us need our feet to get us through the day. Hi, this is Mike with the Good Feet store, and I'd like you to hear from Donna. She's a nurse and a real customer of the Good Feet store who wanted to share her story.
Oh, I have to tell you, I have struggled with pain in my feet. I was diagnosed with plantar fasciitis. With the 3-step program, it really fits to your lifestyle. I work in a hospital. I'm a registered nurse, so being on my feet, walking throughout the hospital during the day, I am free from any type of pain. And after working a 12-hour shift, I go home and my feet do not hurt.
Whether you're a nurse or anyone wanting to enjoy work without your feet getting in the way, come see us at the Good Feet store.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Schedule your free test walk at goodfeet.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. And here's Heather Kelly.
We still have a bit of slowing on southbound I-15 in Utah County. This is leaving Pleasant Grove, heading through most of Linden. We'd had a right lane blocked for about half an hour, 25 minutes, half an hour, due to a disabled construction vehicle that was blocking that right lane. It's now moved away, but again, you have those residual delays in place. Everybody else is moving at freeway speeds on northbound I-15 through Utah, Salt Lake, and Davis counties, the east and west side belt routes, and the 201 freeway. Deseret First Credit Union is turning 70, and now it's their turn to say thank you, with special member giveaways happening all year long. Visit dfcu.com to learn more. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
We should get up to 92 today, 93 tomorrow, which is several degrees below the average temperature for this time of year. Right now it's 86 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
There's another scam in Utah. It seems like there's the scam of the month, scam of the year, but this one is a little bit different. According to Roy Police Department, scammers have been calling individuals, identifying themselves as police officers, and threatening to arrest them unless they make immediate payment for missing something as simple as jury duty or fines that they owe or something like that. So we're going to be joined by a police officer here, but I'll just tell you this: the police officers don't usually call you up and say, "Hey, we're going to come to your house and arrest you." Right. Usually they just show up. But we're joined by Roy Police Sergeant Josh Taylor. Josh, thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
So what got you alerted to this and sort of made you want to talk about this?
Yeah, so it's a kind of a common thing that we see, but we've kind of seen a little bit of an uptake in it just recently, which is why we kind of put it on our social media, just to make people aware of it and hopefully stop a few of these from happening.
So what is it you're seeing?
So typically what happens is this scammer will call somebody. Typically they have their information, at least their name, and they will just tell them that there's a warrant for their arrest. They'll identify themselves as in our last case, they identified themselves as a sheriff's deputy and said there was a warrant out for their arrest for missing jury duty. They said it was a $3,000 warrant, and they demanded immediate payment or they were going to come and arrest them.
Wow.
So in terms of sort of identifying and making sure that it's legit, I've even heard, Sergeant Taylor, that they're calling from a line that makes it appear that they are law enforcement. I mean, it's not just some random line. So if you look at the caller ID, and I've heard this from some individuals, it will say, for example, police department or Roy City or something like that. I don't even know how that occurs, but they're getting really sophisticated with a lot of these scams, aren't they?
They are, yes. You're able to, some apps allow you to spoof your number, use a different telephone number. In our last case, the individual was using a phone number that was not related to the sheriff's office or our police department. And one of our detectives actually called the number and was able to speak to the scammer. So that number was actually connecting straight to them. But sometimes the scammers will use our phone number or a different police department's phone number. And sometimes they'll even use actual officers' names for that police department.
Wow. So what are they asking for besides the money, and they're like threatening for this immediate arrest? I'm assuming they want to scam people out of money.
Yeah, that's correct. So in our last instance, they wanted $3,000 and they were demanding it in Walmart gift cards.
Wow.
And I think that's the most important thing is we'll never call you and demand payment. We will never ask for any gift cards. Gift cards aren't helpful for us in any way. So I think that's the main thing that we want to stress to people is that we will never ask for gift cards. We will never ask for cryptocurrency or anything like that. If we contact you, it's going to most likely be in person, or if we contact you over the phone, we're going to tell you need to come into the court to get that taken care of.
And my experience, Sergeant Taylor, and you've been around the block a little bit too, but when an individual misses something like jury duty, the judge will bring them in, or they'll issue an order to show cause or something, but they're not likely to issue a $3,000 warrant for the person's arrest, are they? I mean, I haven't seen that.
I haven't seen it either. No, typically you're going to get something in the mail. You're going to get a summons to appear in the court to explain why you were missing jury duty. You should know prior to getting a warrant that the judge wants to speak to you.
And we want to make sure that people know not to miss jury duty.
Right.
It's a serious
definitely
matter.
don't miss jury duty.
Right. But again, I would say this also. It would be hard to imagine, not impossible, missing jury duty because you didn't get the notice. I mean, the notice goes to your house, and maybe you've moved or something like that. But I mean, if you get something that says you missed jury duty, you'd probably you would have received something in the mail, typically, right?
Yeah, you should have, and sometimes people don't update their address or whatever, but you should receive some kind of notice. We're definitely not going to call you and demand payment for missing jury duty.
So I have a question. If you say that they can spoof the number, they can maybe use the name of an actual police officer, what can people do to actually verify that this may or may not be legitimate? What's your advice for citizens who might be getting these calls?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is if the call seems suspicious, if you get a call from an officer, you're unsure about it, call the police department directly. Don't call the phone number that the person called from. Look it up online. So if you're in Roy City and you get a suspicious call, look up online, find the police department's phone number, and call and speak to a person there and try and verify that information. Or you can call the dispatch. If you call the dispatch, typically they will get you in contact with an officer. Or our records department actually receives a lot of these calls of people calling and saying, hey, I got a call from one of your officers saying I needed to send them gift cards. Like, I need to know what to do. And they are very up on the times and are able to tell people that is a scam. Do not do that. Do not send any money. So that's kind of the best way to do it is just verify the information.
And again, it seems fairly obvious to me, but if somebody's asking for a gift card, that should be a red flag, isn't it? That, wait a minute, no police officer is going to do something like that.
It is, but I also think that sometimes it's hard for people when they hear that they have a warrant, they're going to be arrested. they don't think about those little things. There's that fear of, I've done something wrong, I'm going to go to jail, I need to fix this right away. So, I can see how people would make that mistake, but that's why we're really just trying to reiterate, we will never take payments of gift cards. We'll never take payments of cryptocurrencies. Officers in general don't take any payments. All of the payments for any fines or fees all go through the courts and don't go through the officers themselves.
So good to know. I actually have an additional question. So scammers may not just be using the phone or email. What else do people need to know?
I think that a lot of what we see is phone or email. Obviously, you get kind of the door-to-door sales. A lot of those ones are going to be legitimate, but phone and email are kind of the most common ones, and it's kind of that anonymity of being over the phone and that fear. That's what they're trying to induce, that fear to make you make these decisions that you wouldn't normally make if you were thinking clearly.
Are you thinking about, what about like if people are trying to make purchases online, but they have to meet up, for example?
So we don't see a lot of that. There is a little bit of the, there have been scams, I guess, where, you go to meet up with somebody to sell a high-ticket item, and then you get robbed of that item, or they assault you and take stuff. We don't see a lot of that, but we do have safe exchange zones here in Roy. I know a lot of different cities have them where it's monitored by video surveillance 24 hours a day in a well-lit area to kind of protect you from things like that happening.
We've only got about a minute left, Sergeant Taylor, but another scam that I've seen that is similar, and maybe you haven't seen as many of these, but is that you get a notice that you owe for a toll booth or something like that. You went through an area that you were supposed to pay for your car, and I know there is sort of one area near the Roy, east of Roy. It's not in Roy, but are you seeing that? Are you seeing that as well?
So yeah, I've seen some posts on Facebook. I've gotten the text messages myself that says that you've missed a toll. I think the fortunate thing here is we don't have many tolls in Utah that aren't just like private tolls. So other states that's probably a lot more prevalent. But yeah, I think the most important thing, a lot of times when we're contacting you, you're going to get something in the mail. We're not going to text you or call you and demand money or anything like that. You'll get notice officially.
Yeah.
Great advice. That's Roy Police Sergeant Josh Taylor giving us. I think we need somebody like him to come in once a month and just say, "Look,
we need those reminders,
Yeah,
right?" It's they're getting more and more sophisticated all the time. It feels like these scammers.
And I don't even know that we catch a third of them or a tenth of them. You don't know who they are, out of state, out of who knows where they're going. But yeah, if somebody's wanting your Walmart gift card, like there's no way
that's a big red flag.
A police officer's not going to do that. As you know, as teachers and students gear up for return of school, there's one aspect that is not getting a lot of attention, and that is how many kids will be in the classroom who are dealing with trauma. We'll talk to an expert about that after this.
Behind the curtain of Utah and Washington politics.
It seems like the federal government is now saying to the states, you have much more control of your destiny.
And expanded inside sources.
And so our legislature is trying to figure out what their boundaries are.
Well, even like FEMA, right?
Yes.
Wildfire disasters.
The all-new Inside Sources.
If we have to pay for it all of ourselves, can we afford that as a state?
Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson, now on 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
Boo-hoo-hoo.
Jason, why are you crying?
I just saw a house with a "We Got New Windows" sign in their yard.
Well, why does that make you cry?
Because they spent twice as much as they needed to for high-quality windows.
Window World offers amazing windows for way less than the other guys.
And we don't play pricing games with phony discounts.
At Window World, we treat every customer like family.
Call Window World today at 281-8111 for a no-pressure, no-hassle quote.
Window World, simply the best. And as Doug always said,
that's no baloney. Hey, I'm Jake Harward. I'm a farmer, and Harward Farms green roadside stands are now open. Hey, who doesn't love fresh sweet corn in the summertime? With our extra warm weather this year, our locally grown non-GMO corn is growing faster and sweeter, along with our now in season watermelon, cantaloupe, peaches, raspberries, and more. Check harwardfarms.com for a list of our locations all over Utah and Salt Lake counties, as well as Mount Pleasant, Ephraim, Nephi, Delta, Tooele, and now open in Price. Fresh from our family's farm to your family's dinner table.
Harward Farms.
You
probably saved my life.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight and keep it off.
I mean, I was 30 pounds overweight, and I went in, and the doctor said, you need to change your diet.
Get help and get started with Soda Weight Loss.
Got off my blood pressure medicine and my cholesterol medicine, and that is amazing to me.
I went from a 16, 18 down to a size 4 now. So that is amazing. It makes you feel so good.
Splash into summer savings right now with Soda's lowest prices of the year.
No injections, no pills, no hunger.
I would recommend Soda because it's sustainable. This is lifetime change.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal.
We're the #1 weight loss company in America for client satisfaction and results. And with our incredible summer savings, what are you waiting for?
Get help, get results at SodaWeightLoss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. I want you to know that it's the little things that count. Any remodeler can say they treat customers right when it comes to siding, gutters, windows, and exteriors. It's hard to know for sure. If a contractor uses cheap generic nails instead of super grippy ridge shaft nails for your siding, would you even know? If they use cheap $4 caulk to install your new windows instead of paying $9 a tube for the good stuff, could you tell by looking? It all comes down to the details and trust. At RGS Exteriors, we only do things one way, the right way. We never cut corners. We never skimp on details. We never do less than the job requires. That's why we offer our industry's exclusive 10-year everything guarantee. And it's why we have the happiest customers. If you need any gutters, siding, or replacement windows, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit rgsutah.com. That's 801-280-3110 or online at rgsutah.com.
When you take your grandkids to Disney, do they know what's in your investment portfolio? Do they even care? They're busy having a great time, and you're busy making memories. At Galileo Wealth Management, we understand the nuts and bolts of retirement planning, our investments, the stock market, taxes, Social Security, Medicare, and more. But think about it. What are you trying to do here? Is your goal to beat the S&P? Or is your goal to make memories with your family? Our goal is to give you the confidence to spend in retirement without the fear of running out of money. Call Todd Kim at Galileo Wealth Management today, 801-516-3227. That's 801-516-3227, or go online to GalileoWealth.com. Let Todd Kim and Galileo Wealth Management help you make memories, not just money.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section and after Dad's back injury. They helped when you were in pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Trouble with opioids can start at home with unused medicines such as pills, patches, and syrups. You can remove the risk and protect your family. Find out how at www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
Inside Sources.
This is a really interesting topic we're about to delve into here. Utah Valley University is offering a course to give educators the knowledge and skills to support students and colleagues affected by trauma.
You know, being trauma informed is actually something that's really important. And I think the question for a lot of people is, what does that even mean? And luckily, we actually have Dr. Amber McGuire joining us on the phone. She will join us shortly, and she has created this course. And when I first heard about it, I thought, well, you know, this must be like a semester-long course. It's not. It's actually 4 different modules. It's self-paced, and it's for educators specifically to delve into learning more about what trauma does to kids, what it can do to their colleagues, what it can mean in the classroom, and how they can be better teachers by being trauma-informed teachers. So we are joined on the line by Dr. Amber McGuire, and she is the creator and teacher of this course. Welcome, Amber. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, happy to be here.
I'm wondering if you could just start by telling us the basics. What does it mean to be trauma-informed? What is that?
Yeah, so trauma informed is not necessarily this idea that you know how to solve or address everyone's trauma. It's about understanding that every person, every student might have experienced trauma in their lives, whether that's big trauma or small trauma. And it's about creating an environment where they can feel safe and ready to learn.
So is this a course for the teachers then, so they can recognize this with respect to their students and maybe colleagues?
Yeah, so I built this course for specifically UVU employees, but we have made sure to adapt it so that it is applicable to anyone in education, anyone in the public sector. Really, it's for people who know that they're like working with generations of people who have all experienced trauma and who want to make sure that these future generations or these students have the capacity and have the skills and the safe place to learn, to grow, to become who they should be, who they're meant to be.
Can you tell us, what does trauma do to kids, even young adults? What does trauma do to us and our ability to learn?
Yeah, so exposure to trauma in childhood has been linked to chronic illnesses, mental health disorders, and also to early death. And it also impacts how your brain develops. Oprah Winfrey actually wrote a book with Dr. Perry that has done an incredible job of explaining the brain, like actual impacts to the layman, which I highly recommend.
What's the name of that one?
What happened to you? What happened to you?
Oh, that's the name. What happened to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
What got you going down this road? What was it that was happening on the campuses and universities that made you think this was an important topic to cover? I mean, it seems obvious, but what got you interested in this as a topic?
So I started working at UVU in 2014, and part of my responsibilities as a coordinator for our Volunteer and Service Learning Center at the time was to manage our food pantry. And I had actually just moved back to Utah from rural Appalachia, where I had spent 2 years working with families in poverty. And that really changed my worldview of how prevalent this is. And then managing our food pantry on campus, seeing that uptick and seeing how many students needed that resource and how that resource was helping in some aspects, but that basic needs, foundational needs, so much deeper, right? Like if someone doesn't have food, they also could be at risk of not having proper health care, not being in a safe environment, not having safe housing or adequate housing. And so diving into like what other basic needs we needed to explore on campus through our care task force, and then through starting to develop what is now the department that I lead on campus, the Care Hub, was this understanding that a lot of these basic needs that aren't being met and a lot of these gaps are also tied to trauma experiences that individuals have faced. And so trauma can mean so many different things, and it can be so many different events that people can experience in different ways. So like 54% of families in the U.S. have been affected by some kind of disaster, whether tornado, hurricane, things like that. Well, that's more than 1 in every 2 people, right? And so it's those people who are all of a sudden like have lost their housing or have no clothes. Like, how can we help them? And not just with like a Band-Aid approach, but how can we really dive down and help make sure that this is a sustainable solution for them, and that if something like this happens in the future, that they know how to find resources, that they know how to work with people around them to get their needs met. And so that led me to finding out about trauma-informed care, and then that led to me doing a whole PhD program and dissertation about trauma-informed leadership.
Awesome. I have one quick final question before we have to break away to breaking news. But one of how do people find out about this program, this course that you have for them? Where can they go to find more information about this?
Yes. So if you go to UVU's continuing education page, if you click on professional education, it is the only one under education. So it's called Trauma-Informed Student Support. It is a 4-module class. It can be done in about 10 hours. And yeah, I really hope that y'all like it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure we'll have another conversation with you. Thank you again, Dr. McGuire. We are going to break to breaking news.
We are following the sentencing of Brian Kohlberger. The victims' families have all spoken, and we're now hearing from the judge himself.
So to the surviving roommates, both in person and through their friends. And I can't think of how, frankly, courageous they have been despite the hell that they have faced by uncaring people who have come up with all kinds of crazy theories about 2 kids simply being kids. The parents, siblings, and other family members who have spoken today are designated as victims in our legal system. But going forward, I hope that they can shed that label, as it gives too much power to the evil that condemned them to that role. They are and should be known as survivors, fighters, and foremost as witnesses to the tremendous lives of value and unbounded promise of these 4 young people. But those speaking today and those who did not speak, but who carry this same burden, this same loss, now carry forward the memories of these now perpetually young people, these forever children. These survivors carry the responsibility of ensuring that the voices of these children, Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan, are never forgotten, and the positive impacts that they have had on so many lives are never minimized, and that the love they shared, the light that they shined onto others is forever celebrated. As we sit here today, this case is ending, and we are now certain who committed these unspeakable acts of evil, but we don't know, and what we may never know is why. I share the desire expressed by others to understand the why, but upon reflection, it seems to me, and this is just my own opinion, that by continuing to focus on why, we continue to give Mr. Kohlberger relevance. We give him agency and we give him power. The need to know what is inherently not understandable makes us dependent upon the defendant to provide us with a reason, and that gives him the spotlight, the attention, and the power he appears to crave. Yet even if I could force him to speak, which legally I cannot, how could anyone ever be assured that what he speaks is the truth? Do we really believe, after all of this, he's capable of speaking the truth or of giving up something of himself to help the very people whose lives he destroyed? Rather, I suspect the so-called reason would be dished out in enticing, self-serving, and aggrandizing untruthful bits, leaving people wanting more information, more insight, and thus enhancing even further the power he seeks to hold. Even if we could get truthful insight into his why, I suspect it would not in any way quench one's thirst for actually understanding why in the first instance. Because there is no reason for these crimes that could approach anything resembling rationality. No conceivable reason could make any sense. And in the end, the more we struggle to seek explanation for the unexplainable, the more we try to extract a reason, the more power and control we give to him. In my view, the time has now come to end Mr. Kohlberger's 15 minutes of fame. It's time that he be consigned to the ignominy and isolation of perpetual incarceration. I know there has been concern about him collaborating on books or movies or other media projects, and I truly hope that someone does not stoop to affording him this spotlight that he desires in the name of clicks, royalties, or profits. While criminal behavioralists should study him away from the spotlight in an attempt to prevent other would-be killers from acting on their worst impulses, there should be no need for that to spill over into the public eye. The great Idaho jurist Edward Lodge was known for trying to find something positive about every person he ever sentenced. And with over a half a century as a trial judge, that was a lot of people. This was often challenging, and I recall in one case he said that the best he could come up with was the defendant had good penmanship.
We are hearing from the judge in this is Judge Hippler of the 4th District Court in Idaho, who's about to impose sentence on the Brian Kohlberger case.
Have buried and hidden anything that might have been good or intrinsically human about him. His actions have made him the worst of the worst. Even in pleading guilty, he is giving nothing hinting of remorse or redemption, nothing suggesting even a recognition or understanding, let alone regret for the pain that he has caused. And therefore, I will not attempt to speak about him further, other than to simply sentence him so that he is forever removed from civilized society. And accordingly, based upon his conduct and based upon the record before this court, recognizing the standards that govern this court's sentencing decisions as set forth in State v. Toohill, I hereby sentence Mr. Kohlberger as follows. On count 1, burglary, 10 years fixed, 0 years indeterminate. I also impose a fine of $50,000. Count 2, first-degree murder of Madison Mogan. I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the family of the victim. On count 3, for first-degree murder of Kaylee Gonsalves, I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the victim of the family, or to the family of the victim, pardon me. On count 4, for the first-degree murder of Xana Kernodle, I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the family of the victim. On count 5, for the first-degree murder of Ethan Chapin, I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the family of the victim. The sentences on counts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 shall run consecutively to one another. Restitution will be left open for 60 days. Defendant will be required to submit a DNA sample and a right thumb print impression to the Department of Corrections and comply with the DNA Database Act. I remand the defendant to the custody of the Idaho State Board of Corrections for to be imprisoned in an appropriate facility and execution of the sentence where he will remain until he dies. Though you have waived your right to appeal, you do have a right to file a notice of appeal, and any such appeal must be filed within 42 days of the date of the written judgment, which will be entered shortly hereafter. Though the appeal, you should be aware, may be deemed a violation of the plea agreement, and so I certainly suggest you discuss that with counsel if that is your desire. I ask the media and public present to allow the families to be escorted out first before they leave. Again, thank you to everyone for your stories today. I am strengthened by them, and I am encouraged by your humanity and strength, and God bless you. We're adjourned.
We've been hearing from the judge on the Brian Kohlberger case. No surprise that he would impose sentences of life in prison without the possibility of parole. He imposed 4 of those, 1 for each of the victims. He imposed them consecutive to one another, and he imposed the sentence consecutive also on the burglary charge. We're joined in the studio by Adam Small, who's been following this morning. Adam, I don't know that there were any any shock with what the judge did, but was there anything in terms of what you heard? I know you were listening to the victim's family speak that particularly got to you.
Well, one of the more compelling, obviously we heard a good 2 hours of victim impact statements. A note that Ethan Chapin's family opted not to attend. They did not attend or speak. So we heard from the victims, or the families of the 3 girls that were killed, as well as the surviving roommate. One of those surviving roommates, she talked about basically how after this happened and she survived this night, she talked about how she had to sleep in her mom's bed for at least an extended period of time because she was so afraid to even be in her own home, worried that she would see, like think that someone's coming after her. Am I going to survive tonight? Kind of thing. That was particularly hard to listen to, and the trauma that she endured. And also the family of Kaylee Gonzalez, her father and mother both, I actually noticed her father pointed the podium where the victims were making the statement directly at Bryan Kohberger. So while most people were giving their statements in the direction facing the judge, he turned to the podium to look Bryan Kohberger dead in the eye, saying things like, "We don't even say your name. You failed to divide our community." And it was either him or his mom or her mom that called Bryan a loser to his face, and like basically saying, "You're getting what you deserve." It was different. Like I had made a note because obviously last year and the year before, I was actually in Boise to attend the convictions of Lori Vallow Daybell and Chad Daybell. And so it was kind of interesting to compare, because in those cases, when victims made their statements, the court actually vetted those statements. They were pre-prepared. Judge went over, what you can say, what you can't. There were actually some victims that weren't allowed to make statements. It was a very vetted process. But this one, the judge basically, go for it. Say what you want. The court's open. There were times there were open swearing, like right at Bryan's face, and it was very, very raw. And based on the characteristics of these crimes, this is exactly what we were expecting before the hearing even started today.
So I wanted to ask you a question. You mentioned that Ethan Chapin, the male victim's family, didn't speak. Is his family the one that was very upset that this wasn't a death penalty case?
I believe that was the Gonzalez family.
Okay.
I believe it was Kaylee's father that was very vocal about
right.
I think, and I'm just kind of remember off the top of my head, I believe they said maybe there was a lack of communication on it. This isn't necessarily what we wanted. I think he really wanted the death penalty. But there were other victims that did speak that were like, hey, we think this is sufficient because he is going to spend the rest of his life in prison. But yeah, Ethan Chapin's family, I don't have a lot of background research because we've kind of following this case from a distance and until today, just because of how far away it is from our listeners. But yeah, it was a lot of mixed emotion. I think there were some victims that were very satisfied with, multiple life sentences, others that wanted the death penalty, but at the very least, get that closure and that you can finally move on. This has been almost 3 years since these students were brutally stabbed to death in their college housing, and now these families can finally look forward, try to find a way to cope and live the rest of their lives. I think that's the biggest thing to take away, regardless of whether Bryan Kohberger got the death penalty or not.
Right.
One of the things that struck me was hearing the judge as we were listening to that breaking news, where it felt to me like he was very pointed in his remarks as he was addressing, as he was getting ready to sentence Bryan. But just to say, basically, your 15 minutes of fame are up. Basically, I'm going to consign you to anonymity, and that's where you should stay.
Yeah, no, the judge was very sharp-tongued. I'll call it that. He did not mince words. I think the judge very openly, at least inferred multiple times in his statement that he used the phrase media circus. He's tired of how much, obviously a case like this is going to get media coverage. That's our job. But I think he understood that he didn't like how it gave Bryan Kohberger a platform, and that it made him, because we know that some, I'm not an expert criminologist, obviously, but there are some serial killers or murderers that have this psychological need to be recognized. They want their name out there. And the judge, in the way he was speaking, wanted to make sure that didn't happen, because everything that was said today was meant to honor those 4 literal kids that were murdered in their sleep. And I think the judge was very stern and straightforward about that. And I think that's something that I'm sure the victims' families appreciated, in that this is not about, yes, it's about punishing Bryan Kohberger, but it's not about Bryan Kohberger. It's about those 4 kids whose lives were cut way too short.
And Kohberger at times, Adam, has really made this, I don't know, he just seems to have this air about him of just this weirdness and this
almost smug.
Yeah. And so I thought it was interesting and probably very, very helpful for the victims when the judge jumped in and said, I hope you don't think you're going to make money out of this, that you're not going to get, you're going to write a book, or you're going to do this, or you're going to do that. And I hope also, and I haven't got to the question here yet, but Idaho has a law similar to Utah's, which is, they call it a Slayer statute, which basically says you can't make money off of your crimes. But the judge almost said to his face, you're not going to make money off this. It seemed like he was trying to make a message clear, because Kohberger's got something up his sleeve. I mean, he's a guy that 10 years from now, he's going to be doing something, it seems.
Yeah, and of course, I think it's expected, at least I would expect, that there is going to be some media outlet that wants to get him in a room with an interview. I mean, we've seen it with Lori Valadebel. Like, she's done multiple media interviews. She's one of the most notorious faces of the crime world of, I'd say, easily the last decade. She's done multiple interviews. I guarantee there's going to be someone that tries to interview him, but the judge pleaded in open court. I hope there are media members that don't do that, regardless of clicks, regardless of profits, because it's about 4 kids' lives were lost. We don't want to give a platform to someone who took their lives from them. Now, again, it's probably going to happen, but I did like personally what the judge said about that, and that it's about the kids. It's not about Bryan Kohberger, and that he doesn't want him to get any more notoriety or money or anything from something that he did was just cruel and unusual punishment, like to these kids and their families.
Do we know anything at all about where he's going to be housed, like where he's going to spend the rest of his life?
I think Idaho, unlike Utah, may only have 1 prison facility. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but I mean, Utah, we've got 2, but he'll be in the Idaho State Penitentiary Adam may know more about this than me, but he'll be in the Idaho State Penitentiary, but I don't know that there's more than 1 of those in Idaho.
I believe there's just 1, and I think it's actually in Ada County. I can look it up too, but yeah, I do believe Idaho is the ones. He's obviously going to be in the state penitentiary.
Maximum security.
And the question, it comes of security too, because again, I haven't followed this case as closely as other ones that I have. I would be shocked if he did not get some kind of protection, because of how heinous this crime was, and the fact that it was quite literally 4 innocent kids going to college that lost their lives. I think not protecting him, and Greg, maybe you can chime in on this, is that not protecting him almost sets him up for some prisoner to potentially do something to him.
Yeah. Thank you, Adam. As Adam Small joining us. Holly, it's good that this is over, and Kohberger, he had to sit there and watch those people speak and look at him and talk to him, and I think that had to be of some value to them. He's never going to get out of prison. He can fuss and talk and give his press statements if he wants, because he's a nut. I mean, he's a evil man, and that's an understatement. But he got his just desserts today by the court, and I think the victims have every reason to feel like justice was served.
Yeah.
We'll be back after this.
Some things can steal your sunshine. Ugh, I just got my hair done.
Sorry, the cooler's broken. Anyone see my flip-flops? Anyone?
But COVID-19 can steal a lot more.
I just took a COVID test. Ugh.
Prescription medications for COVID exist. If you test positive this summer, ask your doctor if they're right for you. Visit PfizerForAll.com/COVID-19 to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life.
Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2025 by Forbes Health, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, starting at just $98 a pair.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aid.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 1 million happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
Respiratory virus season is quickly approaching, meaning we'll see more flu, COVID, and RSV in our community. The good news is vaccines are available that will help prevent these infections and keep people healthy. For flu and COVID, everyone aged 6 months and older are recommended to be vaccinated to help protect ourselves and our families against serious illness. Fall remains the best time to be vaccinated. Respiratory viruses circulate year-round, but peak late fall through winter. Your doctor can recommend which vaccines are best for you and your family.
Brought to you by Intermountain Health and KSL News Radio.
Amanda, we love talking about Utah Community Credit Union, and guess what? They just got news that they saved their members over $40 million in 2024 alone.
And UCCU is opening 4 new branches in the Salt Lake Valley, which means 6 total now. They have 21st South, Taylorsville, Sandy, Magna, Harriman, and Draper.
And to celebrate these new branches, UCCU is offering some amazing opportunities. First of all, $150 cash just for setting up direct deposit with your UCCU account.
They'll give you up to $250 cash just for transferring any existing loan from another institution to UCCU.
And here's the big one, giving away 10 amazing prizes, including, get this, a brand new 2025 Jeep Wrangler.
So you heard that right. A brand new Jeep Wrangler could be yours, and no purchase is necessary. You don't even have to be a member.
Anyone can enter. It's easy. All you've got to do is go to uccu.com and sign up. So enter to win today.
UCCU.com. Find out more about Utah Community Credit Union, where you're going to love where you bank.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Since its founding in 2021, the Prague Foundation has empowered Utahns to build brighter futures through tech training, mentorship, and career support, working with schools and communities to expand access to meaningful opportunities. Director Beth Marshall joins us with more.
Utah is known for its innovation, and the Prague Development Center in West Valley City is advancing that legacy by unlocking tech-driven career pathways where untapped talent meets real opportunity, economic mobility, and long-term community impact. Backed by the Prague Foundation, the Prague Development Center is a nonprofit talent accelerator helping Utahns launch careers in tech, specifically in cybersecurity, UX/UI, digital marketing and e-commerce, and data analytics through certification programs and hands-on industry exposure. We partner with schools, employers, and community organizations to close opportunity gaps and meet workforce needs in some of Utah's fastest-growing sectors. We don't just train workers, we launch careers. Graduates are earning industry-recognized credentials, landing internships, and stepping into meaningful careers that power Utah's economy. Our mission is simple: develop people, strengthen families, and build the future workforce right here in Utah. Learn more about how we're shaping Utah's future at PragueFoundation.org.
The Prague Foundation's work continues to strengthen Utah's future by fostering inclusivity and economic growth. By connecting people, resources, and opportunities, they're building a more resilient community where all Utahns can thrive and contribute to the state's success. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with a sun protection factor, or SPF, of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. UVA rays age the skin, UVB rays burn, and both cause cancer. But the perfect sunscreen doesn't count if you use it wrong. Don't need sunscreen on a cloudy day? Wrong. 80% of UV rays still get through the haze. Only use sunscreen at the beach? Nope. Anytime you're outside, UV rays attack the skin, so you need protection. And you have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
The new Inside Sources.
We've been watching the sentencing go all morning with respect to the Brian Kohlberger case, the quadruple homicide case in northern Idaho, where he was sentenced today in Ada County, Idaho. The families all spoke. The judge spoke, very poignant. Even the prosecuting attorney spoke, and the judge said, I hope you don't think you're going to get some money out of this, or you're going to get anything out of this. And Kohlberger didn't speak. I don't know. I was surprised at that or not, because I'll tell you why.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I'll tell you why I'm not surprised, because there was nothing he could have said.
Right.
And I think it was helpful. I think it was very, very good for the victims to be able to confront him. Adam Small said before the break that some of them even sort of, at least one pointed the podium toward him, because the podium's always directed toward the judge.
Right.
But if you can talk to anyone you want. Some judges will say don't do that. But this judge seemed to give them a very large berth in what they could and couldn't say.
Not all the victims spoke. There was one family who decided that they were not going to even come today to the sentencing, and that was the male victim who was killed. I can't remember his name. Ethan.
Yeah, Ethan. So that was a little unusual, but not unprecedented. I'm sure that they've sent the judge what they call victim impact statements, and I'm sure all the victims did. So the judge probably read from them, but maybe they were in the mind that we don't need to see you.
And it's also been 3 years. They know what the resolution was going to be, and at some point, I don't know, but at some point there are families who want to just be able to move on.
Yeah. Well, I'm ready to move on from Brian Kohlberger too, and hopefully that's a name we never hear from again. But we'll see where that goes. We're going to end this show on a happy note, or
yes,
at least on a better note.
The next one is sad too.
Yeah, this is a little bit sad, but I got to play this because one of my favorite musicians passed away yesterday. See if you can guess who it is. This is Ozzy. He's about to sing here. I got to at least let him say a few words. Ozzy Osbourne passed away. This is my favorite Ozzy song, by the way. It's called Paranoid. It's one of my go-to songs when I'm working out or skiing or something like that. You got to listen to Ozzy. Ozzy passed away yesterday, 76 years old. He was the founding member and the lead singer of a group called Black Sabbath. That's a Black Sabbath song. I didn't like any of their songs, but except that one. That one was one of my faves. One of the all-time rock and roll really leaders, although he was a freak. You know what the worst thing he was known for?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
He bit the head off a live bat.
Holly, there you go. Yes.
So it's the only thing I know about him. I don't listen to the music. It's like, that is so gross.
You nailed it. I was hoping you'd have some Black Sabbath
oh my gosh,
history. So yeah, you nailed it.
Oh no. Anyway, he just did, I think it's been maybe 2 weeks. He did his final concert, and he was able to do it at home, and where I think England, right? And he was able to say goodbye to his friends and fans, and then he passed away yesterday.
Yeah.
It's not a bad way to go.
And he was married to, I think he had a couple wives, but his latest wife, they divorced very recently. It looked like it was this year even. And the two of them had that show where you were sort of watching them all the time.
Reality show.
A reality show, yeah. With the Ozzy or the Osbourne house or something like that.
Oh, the Osbournes.
Yeah,
on MTV. Right. Remember that?
Yeah.
On MTV.
And he kind of became more mainstream because as a rock and roller, he was sort of freakish, which was part of his persona.
So there's this funny piece of trivia about him. So when did you run the marathon?
1992.
Actually, in 1992, he gave an interview and he said, all the stuff on stage, that craziness, it's all a role. It's my work. And then he said, I'm not the Antichrist. I'm a family man.
Because he was known as his moniker was the Prince of Darkness.
Right? And it's the whole Black Sabbath, all of that, right?
Yeah, of course
he's like, it's just an act, guys.
That's what, biting a head off a bat would
seems like more than just an act, right?
Maybe it was a rubber bat or something. Who knows?
No, it was live.
That's the rumor about
so
Ozzy
disturbed.
Osbourne. Okay, let's move on from Ozzy and talk about, not only the days ahead, because we're not going to be here the next couple of days.
I know.
Which is fun because I'm going to be out of town. I don't know what you're doing. Well, I know what you're doing tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because you're wearing the T-shirt.
I'm volunteering at the marathon, so I'll be up around Hogle Zoo with my daughter and a bunch of other people cheering runners on as they come down out of Immigration Canyon and giving them water and Gatorade and whatever that protein stuff is to help people keep going.
You know what people need to hear when they get to Hogle Zoo?
No.
You're looking good.
Yeah,
you don't have far to go.
Okay,
you've
that's
almost
a lie.
got it. Yeah.
I'll cheer them on for sure. And then because it's Pioneer Day, I asked my husband earlier this week, I'm like, what's a Pioneer meal we could make? We just decided we would use the Dutch ovens. So probably
there you go.
we're going to do chicken stew in a Dutch oven, and we'll do peach cobbler in a Dutch oven. Probably not authentic to Pioneer 1847.
Well, should I mention what I'm doing tomorrow?
Yes, you should.
It might be a little inappropriate, but
No, you
anyway,
should.
I have several clients who are in a Nevada penitentiary, and because of this show, I can't. They don't let you go on the weekends. They can only let you go during the week, and of course, Nevada doesn't care that it's the 24th of July tomorrow.
Right.
So I'm going to spend the entire day tomorrow at a prison in Nevada visiting clients.
Yeah, you get to go to prison. I get to go to the zoo.
Yeah,
and cheer on people.
Pioneer Day in Pahrump, Nevada. So, I mean, that's what you do. But it's a day off, so I get to do that.
All right, I'm going to give you a few pieces of trivia as well. So today is National Vanilla Ice Cream Day. And if you remember, Sunday was actually National Ice Cream Day. So why flavors have to have their own days, I don't know, but I don't make the rules. So there you go.
I'll just tell you this. When I've said this several times. I used to work at an ice cream store.
Yeah.
One of our favorite ice creams was Canadian vanilla, and some people call it French vanilla, but it's a much richer form of. So vanilla is great.
My favorite is homemade vanilla.
Yeah, there you go, you go. And even one of my favorite is chocolate chip, which is just vanilla ice cream with a little chocolate chip.
That's right. Okay, so trivia. Today, in 1903, the Ford Motor Company made its first sale of a Model A. Guess how much it cost?
$1,000.
Close though. Actually, it was $850 in 1903. It was not cheap.
Yeah,
right.
That
Model
was
A.
before they got the assembly line going.
That's right. And do you remember what what Henry Ford said the colors were available?
Yes, black, and black.
That's right. That's right.
You get any color you want as long as it's black. I think that's what he said.
Yeah,
yes.
I think that's right.
Any color you want as long as it's black.
Okay, so in 1967, there were actually some riots that began in Detroit. They were some of the most violent and destructive riots in U.S. history.
Race riots?
Yes. By the time the bloodshed and burning and looting ended after 5 days, 43 people were dead, 342 were injured, 1,400 buildings had been burned, and some 7,000 National Guard and U.S. Army troops had been called in. In the aftermath, there was a Kerner Commission. They released a 426-page report in February of the next year and said, our nation is moving toward two societies, one black, one white, separate and unequal. Wow. So, 1984. You'll probably remember this. Miss America had to resign over some photos.
Photos, yes, I remember that.
Yeah. Yep. So
I don't remember her name, but I remember
it was
that.
Vanessa Williams.
That's right. She sort of got famous after that.
She got famous because of that.
Yeah, because of that.
So, and then in 1996, the U.S. women's gymnastics team won their first ever team gold in the Olympics, the Summer Olympics.
There you go. Yeah, yesterday we talked about Nadia Comaneci. So
That's right.
This is the Olympic time of year. So tell me, what time are you supposed to arrive at Hogle Zoo tomorrow?
I will be there before 6 a.m.
Yeah, because
that's not as early as the runners, though.
Yeah, I was trying to think of when where the 10K starts, if it's above or below that. Because if it's above that, you'll be getting a flood of people that are doing the 10K as well.
I think it's below because that is the point where the half marathoners and the marathoners split off. So before that, they kind of run together. Okay. And then the half marathoners have a shorter route to the finish line.
Right.
And it's right after that point, if I remember.
Because 10K is only 6 miles, and I think from the zoo down through the Avs and up to State Street, and I think it ends at Liberty Park. It always has when I ran it. Is probably going to be more than 6 miles. So yes, sometime after that. Good job. Well, that's it for Holly and I today for Inside Sources. Midday with Maria Shileos is up next, and she's going to have the latest on the Bryan Kohberger sentencing. Stay with us.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL